to this joint SIANI and AgroFosa networking meeting. It is the first time we do it, and we are so happy that we can do it here in Kenya. And I mean, it's also very nice to be able to collaborate to programs because we can support each other and we can do so many things together. And our programs are also kind of linked up. So we welcome you, and we are so grateful for this coordination. And I would like to welcome also all the SIANI members and followers who have responded to our invitation on the website or on Facebook or LinkedIn or wherever you saw it. Warm welcome. We know you have been traveling far, and it's a great honor that you made this effort to join us today. On the Zoom, we know people are waking up in Europe, but I think we will have more joining us when working days are starting, and also here. So welcome to all of you. We are a team here working. In the room, I have with me Jonna Wiklund from Sweden, and I also Ngendo Machoa here, who has been instrumental for this setup of the meeting. And behind the scenes on Zoom, we have Solon Kubega, who has been organizing the both meetings. And if you want to have a chat with him on Zoom, you can do that. So everyone who's Zoom, say hi to the organizer of these meetings. And we have also our team in Stockholm with Marta Anguera and Alice Thun Fjell, making sure that this can be seen and this is recorded and that you can look at it later. Now, with this, I would like to invite my colleague Jonna, who will give some housekeeping rules, and maybe there is some people from the hotel and the security also, I don't know. But Jonna, please. The mic is yours.
Thank you, and hi everyone. It's really great to see you all here. So let me just get my notes. Sorry about that. We'll see if the hotel managers wants to come and say something. But we just want to welcome you all, and we will be recording and taking pictures during the day. So if you do not want to appear in recording or in pictures, please contact me during the day and we'll make sure that you don't. We'll start with having some speakers, and we will be very happy to also receive your questions during the Q&A sessions. So we hope that we'll be having a fruitful discussions today. And we're going to start off with a Menti question. So I'm going to run and switch the slides for you.
Yeah, good. Perfect. So, and you who wants to participate in the Menti exercise, please take up your cell phones. You will have, you will need to log into the menti.com and a code, and we will take a pulse on the audience and see where you're from, actually, I think. Not too quick. Okay. We take it slowly. Yes. We know there might be some people coming from Sweden and some from Kenya, but we can have so many more. So let's see where we are. Yes, so I can talk a little bit in between while we are waiting. So SIANI is a network which is open for everyone. It was established and created by people you see here in the room today. It was created 2008 by the Swedish resource base. Now we have it here. So please find the map and show where you're from, so we'll see a little bit where we are. I hope you recognize the location of your country on the map. So we are coming along. Let some more people also open up their phone. You see, isn't it amazing? We have quite a good participation and spread. Oh, in the middle of the ocean. Who ended up there? It looks a little bit fishy maybe, but it's okay. It's on an island, I hope. Yeah, now East Africa is waking up here, and we see them coming in. So we have a good number representative. I know we have also people from South Africa here and more countries, but I think this is a very good start. Jona, do you want to say something?
Just amazing that we're all
Yeah, it's and if you are, if you opened it now and whatever, so keep filling it in, because we will save these pictures as well. And I think it's kind of nice to see. So you see, we have our colleagues from Asia here. We have people also out in the Pacific Ocean coming in. It's also nice. We have also some people very far up north. I don't even identify maybe in the North Pole, but it looks very good. And maybe some should repeat some geography classes in the future to be more sure to find the right place of origin. But what I guessed was that the majority, we would have a big group from Sweden and a big group from East Africa, and this is exactly what this meeting is planned for. So we are all right, and please continue to follow to do this. Yes, so as I said, I started to tell you a little bit about SIANI as a member-driven and members network, which was started once by its members. It was 400 people from the Swedish resource base that got together and kind of conceptualized SIANI, and we are working as we did from the start. But I would like to say some introductory words also to the workshop and the time we are doing this workshop, because I think it's quite significant times, and it is a very important time, and the way we are doing this report, this exact workshop. So SIANI is based in Sweden. We have mostly our events online, but we have also regional events. So 2018, we were in Kenya. It was very important for us to come here because we started already to recognize how we have to regionalize our activities and make sure that we targeted the region with their defined needs and gaps of information. We also, the following year, 2019, we had a meeting in Asia. So this was the start of a rolling regional schedule for meetings. However, in between there was something called COVID. And then, so it took some time before we could come back to the region. So now we are back, and we are really happy to be back. The meeting is timely. You know, a great author, Charles Dickens, he wrote 250 years ago in one of the most read novels in the world, it was the best of times, it was the worst of times, it was the age of wisdom, and it was the age of holiness. And I think that it's a little bit of how our world is today. So we have the greatest opportunities and possibilities in the world. We have people who are educated, healthy, that can change this world. In the same time, we face hunger numbers that we've never seen before, and that will be increased because of conflicts. And the conflict seems to appear everywhere right now. And so the numbers are increasing to horrifying numbers. And so the hunger is also driven by inequalities. We have the climate crisis. We have the health crisis with COVID. We still are in the wave after that. We have a huge biodiversity crisis. We have inflation. Prices is rising on bread, everything you need to eat. And we have people that are, you know, food is a right, it's a human right. And right now, it is not a right for everyone in this world. So, of all these crises, I think the most affected are the people in front line for our food production. And here in Africa, those are smallholders, small entrepreneurs. They are making sure that we are food secure. We have also the indigenous people, we have women, and we have youth. And these people are probably the ones that are most affected by all these crises. So the food system we have at global level, sometimes at local level, it's also very resource consuming. 70% of our water resources goes to the food system. The agri-food system with all the chains might contribute to 35% of the CO2 emissions. And so there's a general understanding globally that our food system is broken. We need to transform it, and it's urgent because we know that we are lagging behind on the SDG number 2. And so in 2021, the UN Secretary General called the whole world to dialogues on how can we change the food system, how can they make this transformation. And one is for sure, we cannot do it unless we collaborate with each other. And in 23, now this summer, I think many of you might have been, or some of you might have been there, there was a stock taking on what has happened since the world got together to work on these food system dialogues. And a lot of action is taking place. And it's taking place very differently depending on the context, the country, the region, and the county. And, but many more people are now involved. And that is why these networks and platforms are very important, because this is an opportunity when we get to meet people that we never met before, but are interested in working and making the world more food secure and sustainable. So we want a food system that is healthy for us people, but also for the planet, so our children can have also enjoy it in the future. Now, what is then SIANI? Well, we're very small, but we are good at communication. We have these, so now it's not only 400 Swedes in this network. No, we are over 5,000, and as you can see, many of them are from here, and there are many out there. But we kind of organize them in 5 groups. So we have members from the government and agencies in Sweden and elsewhere, in academia and research institutes. There are plenty of them here. And UN agencies, we have them here. CSOs, we have them here. And we have private sector here. So, and now we have also worked on the theory of change. And we would like to make some impact. I said we're small. But we would like to work for that food systems are more sustainable, right-based, inclusive of smallholder farmers, small, medium-sized enterprises, and marginalized group. And with that, we recognize the rights of the young rural youth, the rights of smallholders and small entrepreneurs, and as well as indigenous people. And how do we do it? We do it through knowledge management and good communication. And no, please back. Amplification and awareness raising, community building, and networking, and the dialogues. So now we can take. So we started over. We have been in existence in 2008. So this year we had for the 9th time a conference together with a lot of the agri-food people, and the researchers were there as well. It was called Agri4D. It was online. 900 people registered, 500 participated, and it was a space for young people to participate and present their research for an audience that they have not met before. So that is an example how we try to knowledge share and how we work on that space. Next. We have a platform, the website, where you can find all information. We have a lot of people that are willing to share, like researchers that finished their thesis there and defended their thesis. They're happy to share what they spent 5 years of their life doing. And that knowledge is also very valuable for the rest of the world and the people working in this sector. We have, and many of you reach us on the social media, and we have also changed our visuals this year, so you should look for this. And a very important part of our visual is the seed, and that's what we are. We are small, but we can possibly sow a seed for change. And you will see some example of that today. Please, the next one. Yeah, we start some expert groups. So we have one on One Health approach to WASH in Burkina Faso running. We have one on rural land rights, food security in Latin America. They are not running yet, but soon. Pollination knowledge for food, nutrition, livelihood, and the East African Agri-Biological Working Group, and I think that some of them are here in the room. And we have also, we are a secretariat, but we have a steering committee, and we have members of the steering committee in the room here as well with us, and we are happy for that. But I can also show you that one of our tasks is to amplify voices and to bring in the right messages in fora where people cannot be heard. So this is an example of when the Swedish government is receiving the president from IFAD. So we actually were able to organize the meeting and made sure that we had representatives from CSOs, from academia, from the private sector, and we even had the best moderator you can think of. My colleague Ngendo was there also to make sure that they were focusing on the smallholder and their rights. Yeah, that was a little bit about us. Now, we are going into the most exciting part, and we will hear some interesting presentations. So I will have the pleasure now to invite John Mugonia from the Agripreneurship Alliance. Please, John, step forward.
Thank you, Madeline. Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. Today, whether you go to the Food and Agriculture Organization headquarters in Rome, African Union here in Addis Ababa, or the EU headquarters in Brussels, people are talking about these three things: the youth, food system, and transformation. That means that these three terms are very important for us. So why not have a discourse about this? My name has already been mentioned, Mugonia John. I am the program manager, Uganda, at Agripreneurship Alliance. My presentation today, the role of the youth and small-scale businesses in food system transformation. I have the outline of my presentation here, so let's dive right in. So the Agripreneurship Alliance is a non-profit organization based in Switzerland, and it works with partners in Africa to encourage and support young Africans to do two things. One, to launch small agribusinesses, but also to work on developing the entrepreneurial ecosystem of Africa. In 2022, the Alliance opened an office in Uganda and registered as an NGO, international NGO, and this office is the first in Africa. The Alliance's work is three things. One, they do training. Two, they give small grants to young agri-food businesses. And number three, we contribute to research that informs policy innovations and program innovations for entrepreneurial ecosystem development. So our courses are twofold. One is for university students. We have a network of 10 universities in 5 countries. In Uganda, Kenya, Tanzania now is on board, DRC, Somaliland, and Namibia. And that course enables the young agripreneurs to go through 12 weeks, and by the end of 12 weeks, they have a business plan which can then be funded. We also have another course which is particularly for smallholder farmers, and small agribusinesses who don't have the same skills as university graduates. And we conduct research. We've done some research for Food and Agriculture Organization and African Union. We go on. Now let's talk about food systems. What is this food system? Madeline has already talked about it, so my work is simple. Food system refers to production, distribution, consumption of food, but also management of waste. So it is complex. Many social connections, many social business relationships, many activities. And when we bring in the term transformation, we are referring to the fundamental changes that are needed to ensure that the food system is, one, inclusive, two, sustainable, adaptable, and resilient to the public crisis that we face today. So the youth and small businesses can really contribute, but they need policies to support them and an enabling environment. We go on. So why should we bother to ensure that the youth are involved in the food system? One of the reasons is that the youth have unique perspective which they can contribute in terms of innovations, in terms of creativity, in terms of activism, and this will help solve problems of nutrition, you know, the environmental challenges, and waste management. Then involving the youth also enables the intergenerational dialogue, the transfer of skills and knowledge, and in many ways we hand over the baton to the youth to lead us now, but also into the future. However, for the youth to do that, they need policies that support them, they need finances, they need to be healthy, they need nutrition, and they need education, training. So one of the ways that the youth can contribute is through innovation and advocacy. Talking to the people that make policies, but also sitting on the policy tables and say, hey, we have to be sure that what we are doing is sustainable and we do not reach the future and we have no world to live in and we don't have food to feed. Maybe 100 years from now, many of us in this room will not be there. But many young people will be there. And as much as it is our food system, it is their food system. So their voices need to be heard. Then innovation and entrepreneurship. The youth are innovative, but also in many cases they are early adopters of innovation. So here we see a photo of a young man from Uganda into organic farm and is using black soldier fly technology to reduce, you know, the food waste, but he makes organic fertilizers, he makes poultry feeds, he makes oils that he sells to the cosmetic industry. What about small-scale businesses? And these ones are very important today than probably what we thought their importance was. We saw from the COVID-19 that the global food system is really, very vulnerable. So you need small-scale businesses to diversify the food system. Jonah? Yeah, to diversify the food system and bring new products, bring in new perspectives. So again here we see Fiber Foods, a small East African company in Uganda and here in Kenya. They produce jackfruit chunks, which are substitutes to meat. So if you are a lover of meat, I'll just mention this, allow me. If you have 1 kilogram of beef on your plate, 70 kilograms of greenhouse gas emissions have been produced to give you the 1 kilogram of beef. So the small businesses are trying to disrupt this. By giving us jackfruit as a substitute, we can reduce these emissions significantly. The other contribution of small businesses is sustainability. I've already mentioned about how we realized from COVID-19 that surely the big or the long food system might not be sustainable. So these small businesses are within communities, and in many cases, they use sustainable means of production. So talking about agroecology, talking about conservation agriculture. This one, I think, is the biggest contribution of small businesses, especially in Africa. Extension and input supply. Believe me, our extension in Africa, the public extension system, is not really delivering what it should. So you need the support of small businesses. Remember, these are in the community. Here we see Avepo Enterprises. This business is in Siaya, here in Kenya. And they deliver inputs to smallholder farmers in their communities. They also give them trainings. They link them to markets. They understand the local context. And they are very important when it comes to technology adoption, because they take the new varieties fast, sell to farmers, but they also carry out on-farm experimentation and give feedback to our breeders. I'll be closing. So my conclusion is that small businesses and the youth surely contribute to food system transformation. And small businesses in particular, they ensure that the incomes they generate are within the community. You know, the wealth in many cases stays there. Also, small businesses help us to diversify the food system, but also make the chain shorter, because the disruptions come in if the chain is very long. Anything that happens there, maybe in Nairobi there will not be food. So you need food around the peri-urban areas of Nairobi, so that if something happens, you can still have at least some food. So, lastly, the youth and small businesses need policies that support them, an enabling environment. You need investment, you need market linkages, name it. My name is John Mugonya, and this is the contact. So feel free to reach out to us for this discussion and any other discussion you might want from us. Asante sana.
Thank you so much, John. That was a brilliant presentation. What a good start of a day. And now we will actually listen to one of the young entrepreneurs. So I am super excited also to present Naul Adungna Oli from Beta Blockers in Ethiopia. Naul, you should take the stage. And Naul has been participating in our seminars, and so has John before, but online. But it's so good to hear them live now. And Naul, the stage is yours.
Good morning, everyone. So, as mentioned, my name is Naul Adunya, and I'm a fresh graduate from Addis Ababa University. I studied pharmacy, and I'm going to present you a startup that we have founded 3 years ago, where we are students. So this is me and my co-founder, Kirobel, standing in the lab, trying to prototype different products from locally sourced crops. This is in Danish Technical University. I will tell you more about the project that we are doing. But to start, I am now almost 25 years old. So before 25 years old, when I was born, the area I was born was having problems such as drought, conflict, regional conflict, and ethnic conflict in the northern part of Ethiopia. So most children face the problem of malnutrition. So fortunately, I got the opportunity to move to the capital, Addis, with a family, where I get a good education. But I always think back while I was a child, and that was my motivation always to make a change, to make something good for the community. So contribution of malnutrition in Ethiopia. and under 5 years of age contributes for 35% of mortality, which is very devastating. And still now, in our neighbor, there is a woman called Worke, having 4 children. Still, her children face the same problem I faced 25 years ago. So this is a problem that has been continuing for generations. So we come up with a solution, the Fabarli project. So we use 2 fantastic crops that are largely produced in Ethiopia, faba beans and barley. So faba beans are great source of protein, especially plant-based protein, and barley, they are a great source of carbohydrate. So Ethiopia is well known for the athletes. So most of the athletes are from the place where barley is grown very much. So these are fantastic crops that we should use to make a product. Next. So we use this as a main ingredient by blending with different raw materials. We made 2 products. This is a product that we made from barley. This is a barley-based product, and this is a faba bean-based product. So we have been doing this project for the last 3 years. We have been investing our time and everything in this project while we are studying. So the work I told you about, who have 4 children, why would she love our product? Because they are accessible. The faba beans and barley are accessible. They are largely produced in Ethiopia. Ethiopia is largest producer of faba bean and also barley. And it's affordable when we see the price to the conventional food that we eat. These crops are affordable and acceptable in terms of their taste. So currently the main market segment we are working on is to reach out to children, especially children under 5. That's why we make the strategy of prototyping biscuits from the crops. So this would be a good choice to give to children as they love this product. And blue-collar workers who need energy in their daily life, areas affected by disaster and refugee camps are the future market segment that we intend to reach. So currently we are working very hard in order to introduce it to the school feeding program. Recently, the Addis Ababa school feeding program has been initiated, like 3 or 4 years since it has been started. But we have gone and seen what the children eat, and it's not nutritious. It might get the children to be fulfilled, but the nutrition content is not much. So we see this as an opportunity to immerse ourselves in the near future. So this is our operational model. The current operation that we are doing is near Addis, where we can access the farmers and where we can enter into the market of Addis. Then we will for sure expand our production site. So we take it into our production site and distribute it to different shops and the schools and the refugee camps. So these are the direct competitors, of course, street food vendors, bakeries. They are but we have a competitive advantage because we produce a healthy, nutritious food, affordable than the biscuits that are found on the market, and also they are sustainable as we use locally sourced crops. Okay. So this is our traction so far. We have been the winners of Next Gen Innovation Program of Eastern Africa by World Food Program. That's how we get the opportunity to prototype our products in Danish Technical University for 1 month and continue our partnership with the students that are found in Denmark working on their masters. So we partnered, we share information, and they also helped us prototype 2 additional products that are useful for lactating mothers and infants. So this has been a very good experience we have with the students. And also we have got a small soft funding from GIZ, where we plant our production site near Addis, and where we are producing our products, employed 3 additional people. And when the total company has now 7 employees, you can imagine having this amount of employee after graduating. So these are our partners, the GIZ, the World Food Program. We are very thankful. And now SIANI has been the new partner we have that we're going to use very effectively. And this is an amazing team I'm honored to be part of. We are all committed pharmacists doing this project to be in life. And I invite you to join us in fighting against malnutrition, to be partnered up with us, and to work. And we're very open to share our experience and learn from you. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Noel. And in the afternoon mingle, you will have opportunity, I think, to taste some of these biscuits as well. Thank you. And yeah, SIANI has started already 2016 to support different young people in different ways. And we are very proudly supporters also of Agripreneurship Alliance, which has had an expert group with us for 2 periods. And so we are really happy to see all this good development. Okay, now someone whispered to me, where are the women? But they are here also. So now I'm very pleased to introduce to you Diana Nidia from VI Agroforestry. And VI Agroforestry is also an organization. It's an NGO, she will tell us. But we have worked a lot with you as well. So please enter the scene. It's so good to have you here. Thank you.
Good morning, everyone. My name is Diana Njehia, but Nihia is also workable. I work for VI Agroforestry as a business development and PMAL officer, that is planning, monitoring, evaluation, and reporting and learning. It's a very big title and a lot of work, but I love it. I think let's get to know who we are. We are for inclusive and sustainable food systems. That's what we work around. But we can go ahead. Yeah, we were founded in 1983 in Sweden, and we work within East Africa, basically in Kenya, Tanzania, and Uganda, working to empower smallholder farmers and their organizations and living conditions. Now, this year we are 40 years old. We're celebrating our anniversary, and actually, our main methodology is to promote agroforestry within the farms and also sustainable agricultural land management practices. I'll give you a brief of it. Just anything around the tree. So, because we believe where the trees grow, people also grow and also thrive, and the environment thrives. We can go to the next one. If I'm fast, please tell me. This is our vision, a sustainable environment where people, men and women living in poverty are able to improve their lives. I think we go to this is our mandate. We just fight poverty and climate change together with smallholder farmers and with other partners that we work with to ensure they are socially and economically resilient, and as well protecting the environmental resources which they grow their crops, on which they depend on their livelihood. So basically, that's us in a nutshell. Our target groups are smallholder families. Either they are most of them are organized into groups at a higher level. In Kenya, those ones who are family in Kenya, we work with farmer groups which have a legitimacy board. I mean, legitimately recognized by law. So there's different levels of farm organization in Kenya. So we work with those ones who are within the legal framework. And we look for our key targets are people with smallholder farmers with limited access to productive resources and opportunities, and also experience some food insecurity at one point in the months of the year, and also who also are facing climate change challenges in their food system and production of their food systems. That is our main methodology, which is agroforestry. we tend to look at to influence the land use decisions around that. So it includes nutrient management, soil, water, agronomic, integrated livestock, integrated pest management, tillage, and residue management. I think it was about the waste, also comes also part of it. Energy conservation, basically we are doing energy saving jigsaws to avoid people cutting a lot of trees, in which now we go back again to the cycle of destruction of the environment and restoration and rehabilitation. This can be natural regeneration, depending on the land use and the landowner. I hope that's a bit clear. If you can go to the next one. This is what we embrace as part of our programming work and the way we do and should be seen within our practices. This is our internal standards. We promote human rights-based approaches, a gender transformative approach. It's just not putting figures. We want to see relations changing, and the power relations also are being transformed. We also don't want to leave anyone behind. Conflict sensitivity, as Madeline has said, this issue takes place at household level, at community level, at local level, at ethnic level, at inter-country level. So depending on where the smallholder farmer is, we need to ensure that our program work does not exacerbate conflict in those zones. Then of course we have anti-corruption, which is zero tolerance. They also build to ensure that actors, we are building capacity in the civil space so that people can engage with the duty bearers, and also trying to link our local advocacy efforts to the global efforts. And of course, the multi-stakeholder engagement, because no one can do everything by themselves. Next. We normally have 3 partners. We work through partnership. We are not involved in direct implementation. We have the core partner, who are basically farmer-based organizations, member-based. Those are the key constituents who we work with. And we focus more on strengthening their capacity to deliver services to their members, and also engage the duty bearers at whatever level, if it's at local level or at national level. So that's what we work with. Then there's the second one. Next. These are technical partners, people who have the capacity to build the capacity of our core partners in areas that the core partners feel and have identified that they need capacity building in. We also work with them. Then we have the third one, the strategic partners. These are regional bodies who we think, and other partners who we think we can collaborate, design programs which can deliver impact. So basically that's our framework of our operations. Next, if I'm talking fast, please stop me. This is our future. We hope to see green, men and women working together, agroforestry is in. People are happy with their lives. That's what we would like to see. And this is our future farm. It has biodiversity in it, different crops, men and women are working together. You can see integrated livestock. This is nature, the birds are there, the bees, the beehives are there. This is our future farm. Would like to see. That's it. There's something on? There's something missing, yeah? Okay. How we work, basically, in transforming our food system. I think the first one I said is about strengthening farm organizations. This is where we need constructive and reflective dialogue. Both even the farm organizations need to look at their own systems, and as we move along in the food systems. So what we normally do first is to promote inclusive models. So first thing is ensuring we have parameters. We look at the leadership in terms of women and youth and the management, and we also take a look into the membership. Because remember, one of the issues I've talked about children. Most of the time, the farm organizations actually just focus on their core members. They forget the children, forgetting that these are their future members, and they need to engage them in the schools before and ensure that they have the capacity to manage whatever land they're going to inherit from their parents. They're able to manage it in a sustainable way. Now, that's what we try and include in that, to ensure that as farmers, as the organizations are engaging in the membership and expanding, they're able to include men, women, and youth and children, especially, and begin to look into how the let me call it the value chains that they're doing, where the youth involved to ensure that it's not just monocropping, just the direct members. Maybe the youth have a contribution in those value chains, and they need to be supported. Just because they don't either bring the tea or whatever product, they have other activities they support, so they need to be able to be mapped out and be included and supported. Then the other thing we have a serious dialogue is on strengthening resilient agricultural livelihoods. Now, this is one of the areas that we normally try and encourage farm organizations to understand there's no sustainable livelihood of the smallholder farmer. If you, the farm organizations, you are unsustainable. You need to be sustainable so that you're able to provide services continually. Okay, thank you. The other one we do is promoting, I said, climate change and biodiversity, looking at the kind of crops you're doing, the species, the differences to avoid monocropping and pests build-up, areas like that, collaborating with research institutions, promotion of nutrient-rich production systems and products, and of course, food security, which is we dialogue on moving away from, I think somebody has mentioned, calorific to more nutrient kind of production system, and ensure that it's able to address issues of feed, fodder, and food for everything that is around that, and of course policy and advocacy, where we build in the capacity of the farm organizations to engage, but of course they have to be inclusive in identifying the needs of the men, women, youth, and children. So we encourage them, if you engage the county, please ensure children's issues are also part of the package. Yeah, thank you.
Thank you so much, Diana, and that was a brilliant presentation. And the agroforestry is celebrating 40 years, and I understood that you have been planting 1.5 billion trees in this region during all these 40 years. So big congratulations to that. I think it's worthwhile and applaud as well for a civil society organization. Yes, so we have seen actors on the local level, small entrepreneurs, young people, the NGOs, and now a very important actor on local level is, of course, local government. And we are very honored to have with us Patrick from Muiruri from Nairobi City County. And you have promised us 10 minutes, yes? The presentation. There are a little bit more images, but we are interested to see them all. So very welcome, Patrick.
Okay. Thank you. Yeah, good morning, everyone. Yeah, so you can just say I'm Patrick. And the other one is a bit tricky. Yeah, my presentation is just a little bit of it. We would have, actually we're going to interact more one-on-one, and there are many images, so some of them you just patch. But in Nairobi, we usually say that a photograph has so much information, that's why it wouldn't want to leave any of them. Yeah, so I'm from the food system in Nairobi, and we are going to look at the role of the county government. Next, please. And in this presentation, we're going to see some of the sector goals that we have, the strategy that we're having, and some field experiences, and something that is very exciting about food market information, access to it. Next. And we simply say that for our strategy, that it's basically a plan of action on how to achieve food and nutrition security, and especially also what Madam has presented on the children. We don't leave them out. The women, we don't leave them out. In the marginalized, we don't leave them out. So that's why we're having a strategy. Next, please. And we also note that since here in Swahili, Madam, we say sisi ni serikali, we are government. So when you're government, you take the lead. You do the policies together with the people. And so that's why we are having the policy. And in these policies, they actually ingrained into what we do. So in Nairobi, we have various sectors, but we also have the agriculture sector. or the green Nairobi sector, as they would say. And the goals that are written here, I will not go through them. They actually into what we call the County Integrated Development Plan. These are plans that we do for 5 years, and you have to put in what it is that you're going to do as a department or as a sector for the people for that. And you recognize that we have so much that we do. And probably the last line there is about sustainable urban food systems towards zero hunger. That's connecting with the SDG, I think, number 2. Yeah, next, please. Then we had the food system strategy, and it actually took about almost 4 to 5 years. We started in 2018 when we started with the strategy, all the way up to 2022. Last year is when it was approved. And it's actually available on the Nairobi city website. You can download it there and you can see what it is. But the most important thing is that as we developed this strategy, we talked with the people on the ground. We had the stakeholders, the international stakeholders like FAO, they supported. C40, they also supported the process. So it's all inclusive, such that whatever we developed is what is actually there on the ground. Next, please. Then when we come to the strategy, in short, it has some 4 basic objectives, which are more or less like what my Ugandan brother has presented, that we are talking about food production. We are talking about stable food supply and incomes, what we refer to as distribution or market. We also have reduction on food loss. You can also add food waste. We also include on good welfare for the food consumers. So we are looking across the board, and that's what the strategy is about. Now, put in a different way, these are the 4 nodes that basically that the strategy looks at: food production, distribution of the market, processing or value addition, like what my brother was presenting, consumer education, and then we say that along all these 4 nodes, food loss occurs, food waste occurs, and therefore we have to take care of that at every node. Next, please. And then when we were developing the strategy, I don't know, can you relate to that? Do you see yourself? Where are you? Yeah, I'm dissuading the ones who are looking at their small screens. Can you see yourself there? Yeah, we have the supply side where we are doing the farming. We have the demand side where you're having the food. And we usually say that the food system is simply how food moves from the farm to the market and all the way up to your plate, to the fork. That's the definition that we give at the very end. So as we developed this strategy, this is what basically guided us, the system approach, such that we do not leave anything out. Next, please. Then we also noted that we have to use stakeholders. And this one, madam, we are seeing every morning, every noontime, every evening. Stakeholders, stakeholders, stakeholders. Because one, the government does not have all the resources. Yeah, and the resources are within the community, with the stakeholders, and when they come on board, they actually help us. And when you're talking about the stakeholders, you're talking about the input suppliers, the farmer, the producers, the distributors, all that. Now, we also have from the academia, the ones who are doing the research, the ones who are doing the extension, the ones who will be, getting the data on the ground, the enumerators, policymakers, and all that. And then you realize that all these stakeholders are very important at the different stages within the development of whatever it is that you have. Next. Then we come to the field experiences, and this is where we are having collaborations and partnerships with various stakeholders. And I don't know, what can you see there? Mm-hmm. Somebody can see cabbage. What else? Huh? Demonstration plots. Brock triangles. Now, a Kenyan, what can you see there? The first thing that a Kenyan thinks. Huh? Maize. Yes, good. In Kenya, you cannot talk about food security if you don't talk about maize. Yeah. Actually, this morning I took boiled maize. Huh? Very nice. You harvest it in your farm, you boil it, you take it. Huh? Good stuff. Huh? And she says this. And it has fiber and it's all that. But basically what I'm just saying is that in Kenya, or in Nairobi for this matter, we are having this space. This one we call it the showground, whereby we have various demonstration plots showcasing how you can raise different crops. And this one is for the vegetables. And we're talking about stakeholders. So we are having the seed companies. The seed companies there. Now again, if you look at the, just at the front, we have a banner there reading ADC. ADC is one of the top producers of seed maize. So we also engage with them. Okay, so that's on that. Next. Again, still the same prices, but now you can see now the scenario is changing. We are having more of the vegetables and various different vegetables. Then on the far right, something that is also unique also happens in that in the demonstration plots, we have actually given some space to the children in the primary school. Here we call them the 4K crab, and they're actually the ones who are manning. They actually did the planting, and they were manning those plots. So what we are saying is that we are also engaging the youth and making agriculture look or actually be something that you want to look forward to. Yeah, okay. Next. Then we had stakeholders with that were giving us the agrochemicals, others still on that. So it's just the same story. Next, please. Yeah, we also have integrated systems where you have different enterprises that you can have. In one like this one, you have some rabbits at the top. You have some fish that you can't see at the very bottom. So that's there. Then you're also looking at the large stock. How do we feed our animals? So still the same prices. Next, please. I might rush here. Then something that is also coming up, and it's catching up especially in Nairobi because of the small spaces, the use of aquaponics, whereby we are growing vegetables that are clean in a small space. And we also have fish production at the other end. So these are things that we are doing in Nairobi. Next, please. Again, space for for him during that space, such that they can display what it is that they are coming up with. And we also have some milk products. In Nairobi, we produce milk. And we also have value addition for milk. And there are some groups that we have supported with milk processing machinery. So we have that. Next, please. Yeah, still the same, just space for the stakeholders because of the nutrition. Yeah. Okay, then finally, we are getting to the environment. Let's go down. Yeah. We said that there is waste that occurs. And actually, when you go to the to the food markets, we find a lot of waste, organic waste. And what we are doing is that we are in a market that we call Korogosho. In the last 1 year, we have trained 100 youths on processing that organic waste. And what they do is that you start from there, and they make about 5 products. They make briquettes. They make, so that's the process of making the briquettes. They make organic matter. They make soap. They make avocado oil. They make artificial wood from the avocado seed. And all that one is recycled. Instead of that organic bit going to the dump site, it's like that. So I think we are almost done. Then the last bit is on access to food market information. And here, we just delved into something that has not been there before. And usually we say that if it's happening in Nairobi, it will happen in other cities. We are coming up with a database, actually a dashboard that shows which market it is, where the market is, we are geoportal, more or less. So that was the launch of the geoportal. And next, it's actually the last one. When you click on that link, it will take you to this, and you can see the various markets that we have. And if you click on any of them, it takes you and gives you information about that market. So that's actually some area that has not been touched by others. And in Nairobi, we are saying that we are one of the first in the region to do this. So I think that's almost the very end. So at the end, we are saying that we are engaging in stakeholders, and for all those things, we are saying the last bit there, that whenever we engage with the stakeholders, we usually have an MOU so that we can have that collaboration. Thank you very much.
Can I ask the other speakers to come up here to the podium? We will have a short panel, and I think maybe there are people who would like to ask you some questions. If there are not, well, I have many questions for you, so we can continue the conversation for long. Please, Diana, Naul, and John, where are you? You disappear. No, you're there, of course. Sure. So we have these, and you see, we have only one microphone, so we are a little bit in problems, but we can have the other microphone in the room, can't we, Ngendo? So, and I know there are people who are volunteering here to circulate with microphone. Yeah, Cynthia is here. So here's one microphone, Ngendo. I don't know if they have batteries. Okay, do we have any questions from the room? Yes, okay, over to Madeleine. Yeah. We have 3 questions here. How does it look on Zoom, Ngendo? Do you have any? No questions so far on Zoom, but okay, Madeleine, please.
Thank you very much for interesting presentations. I would like to talk to the entrepreneur in the room here and ask you, very interesting, what would you say has been the absolute most important thing for you to actually do what you've done, as well as what are the biggest hurdles for people like you that want to enter this food market?
That's a very good question. The very good thing about our innovation is starting it in the university. I mean, the most important thing when I look back and see why we have done, I mean, it's not that much, but how we did this, I appreciate that we started it in the university where we are just students. So whenever we have a question, whenever we want help, we can go to our teachers, to our lectures, and to like the school community to help us and to engage with us. And we have plenty of time to prototype too. I mean, if we started it right now, I think it would be very difficult for us to start from the start and like continue. So I think the most thing is like I appreciate students starting their initiative while they are students. Like we always tell to the university community, we have different sessions while we are there. So most people were very inspired by our accomplishments, by our success, and started their own business. And we're seeing some, we are appreciating things that we have been looking. And the challenging thing is, I mean, the bureaucracy with the public or the government. I mean, the access for the workplace have been very much difficult for us to work. Even with this all traction, with this all acceptance, we haven't even started. We haven't even get any support. This is the fact of many startups in Ethiopia. Most policies appreciate new startups. Like every time we hear startups should be there, but the existing ones, if we don't support the existing ones, it's nothing to support the new ones, because they are going to fail in the end. So most startups that have started with us are now not in the business. They are like looking for other on their profession. So this has been very challenging. So this is my answer if I did right. Thank you.
I'm David from the University of Nairobi, and I would want to hear more from Diana and Patrick if they have any active modalities for engaging the youth, that's the students from particularly from the cultural disciplines at the universities. Because I know the universities have internship programs where they normally attach students to different organizations. So do you have any active MOU to the universities? For example, Patrick, at the showground where students can actually take 3 months to participate in those activities. Then for Diana at VI Agroforestry. Thank you.
For the people on Zoom who are not able to hear, the question is, how do you engage the youth? There are certain modalities that you have in place.
First of all, for VI, we have entered into a research area where it's becoming part of our programming. So we are coming up. There's a new area we're developing with the local universities and universities in Sweden to do research there. That's the first one. The second one, we're developing networks for youth in different zones as a way of engagement and mentorship within. But and of course, we are also engaging with Patrick's counterparts in other counties to provide support. And of course, there's a usual internship for youth within the agroforestry and trying to make sure that the partners also are able to promote youth engagement so that they can acquire the skills, the practical skills on how to transform the institutions, the food systems.
Okay, I would like to add to what my colleague has said. In Nairobi, we are very particular. We have attachment positions for university students. I think in the last 6 months, we have had more than 50 students doing attachment. Now, we also target specifically youth who have just left college. And for instance, at Mama Rusey Hospital, we are having some demo plots whereby we have the youths who are actually literally manning those demo plots. And they're also going right ahead with other stakeholders and even documenting what it is that they are doing. And if you watch YouTube, there is this Tutarima town. Yeah, it is based on the youth program. Yeah, we also, as I also said, we have the 4K club, and we have given them a particular portion within the showground whereby they raise crops and also small stock for that. Then again, for the youth who are out of school, you said that, for instance, last year we did train 100 youth with support from C40, with support from FAO on waste management. This year, we are training 25 youths from City Park and another 25 youths from Kawangware Market on waste management. Thank you.
Thank you so much. It's so impressive to see that you take responsibility and engage youth in these important activities. We have more questions. I saw one hand up with Magnus, and I think he has a mic.
Hello, I'm Magnus, Lund University, Sweden. I'm interested in the agripreneurship and the youth. I'm wondering about, and the case of Kenya particularly, I'm wondering about access to land, which can be a big issue in Kenya. Is that a problem for the youth, or are you finding ways around that?
So about land and how the youth can have access. Do they have access to land?
Yeah, I think that's a perfect question for John. Please.
Yeah, I was hoping the question would go to Patrick and Diana here because they understand the context here better. Yeah, but I'll speak from the business plans that we get, and you know what the young entrepreneurs tell us. The question of land in Kenya and many other African countries is problematic, especially for youth. In some areas, they will have user rights, okay, limited, but they don't have ownership. So you can use But when I say, even if it is the middle of the season and I come and say, I want to do something else here, you have to leave. So what we've seen, and I speak from the last business plans we've got, is that the youth are now finding ways around it, going into the hydroponics that we've seen and trying to use small space. So in the last business plans of cohort 5, there's a youth that is planning to do watermelon and using some of these technologies. So yes, it is a problem. Probably Patrick could tell us more about this.
Okay, thank you. RAND is very emotive in Kenya. And we have the RANDS department. And usually you'll find that the way we are doing it around in Nairobi is that, for instance, we have a number of schools or institutions, if you like. And in these schools, this is now where they are practicing their agriculture. Yeah, so we have the spaces within the schools. Again, we are also involving the youth with technologies that use less land, like the vertical gardens. They're helping them with aquaponics, with the hydroponics, with the drip irrigations, with corn gardens. So basically what we are saying is that we are going around it by using different technologies such that they can still do their production. Now, the other thing that we are doing is that we are also involving the youth in processing. And you'll notice that in processing, or value addition as we call it here, does not require a lot of space. So that's another way that we are going around it. Then there are some schools, especially in this part of town. Here we call it Westlands. We have several schools around here. And we have encouraged them, and we're actually doing fish farming within the school compounds, and the fish is used as part of their meals during the term. That's the way we are going around it. But we also have a departments of RAND, but it's a bit complex when you get there. Thank you.
Okay, sorry for that. What we've done, we've encouraged farm organizations to pick up the conversation, because one thing we've noted, the innovation of the youth going around it, is they split the season with the family on the use of land, where the second season, the youth are able to access land, and we try and ensure that the farm organizations also recruit them and also target services in what kind of crops can grow in the second season, and also engage in any advocacy issues, as he was saying, sometimes in the middle of the season, so they pick up that conversation within their community setup.
Thank you so much. It's a very interesting question. We have one left, and then you will talk with the speakers in the break. Yeah, please.
Thank you. I'm Janina Karunji from Makerere University. My question is for John. So I work with the finalizing agriculture students, and I would like to link them with you. So I want to know a little bit more about the screening process. And another question I have is, you get many business plans. So those who fail to make it, what support do you give them?
I think the online audience has had, but we also have an additional question. The food strategy that you mentioned in Nairobi, is it all across Kenya that different countries also have their own food systems strategy?
Yeah, we start with John.
Yeah, thank you so much, Dr. Karunji. We currently engage internships, but on a limited scale. Our model is to work with universities when students are still in the university. So they do this course, the 12 weeks, when they're in the university, both online and also physical participation. On the second question, of support, we do all the business plans that we get, we review them, and we give personalized feedback on each business plan. So the thinking is, these participants have got some experience when working on this business plan, and they know what they want to start. So when we give them feedback, they can build on it, and they start their own business. They can build on it and go elsewhere and get finances, or they can use these skills when they get employment elsewhere. So that support ecosystem is there, whether it is an active business plan we are working on, or a participant has moved out of the course, they have finalized the course, they want to apply somewhere and they want us to look at their business plan, we are happy to do that. Thank you very much.
Yes, thank you for asking about the strategy. And as I said, usually Nairobi is the one that takes the lead. And what I know is that Kisumu also have a strategy. Yeah, beyond that, I'm not very sure of any other one that has specific strategy. But Nairobi and Kisumu, they have. And actually, Kisumu also came to a benchmark with us at some point.
Thank you so much. And now I think we can thank this panel with a big round of applause. And I'm perfectly sure that there are many who have questions, but we will go out and have a break, and you can ask them over the coffee, I think, and we'll continue the conversation. Thank you so much. Yeah. Let's have a break. How many minutes? 5 minutes, so short break. Oh, it's only short break. Oh, my God. So short conversations, and then we take a spare for the longer break. Okay, 5 minutes.
Han hoppade ut.
So we are starting now, and people will join because I think we have enough number of people in the room so far. Hopefully the speakers as well. But I'm sorry about this very short break. It was just a leg stretcher. Coffee will come later. So if you enjoyed coffee now, you're welcome to take coffee later as well. And we might shorten that break a little bit. We have to see. So I think that, Jonna, do you want to present what's coming up, please?
Yeah, so first of all, while we also wait for the room to fill up, you can go to menti.com, and there's a small quiz there with 2 questions that you can fill out, and I think we can show the results later. And then we will have some more speakers joining us.
Yeah, that's good. Yeah. So we come now into the second, what we call of an inspirational session. We have had a good start, I would say. And now we will continue as with exciting speakers as well. And one of our speakers is not here right now. So I have the pleasure to invite Jane Mutune from the University of Nairobi. So very nice, Jane. You are welcome, and take the stage. Woo!
Thank you. Good morning to everyone. My name is Jane Mutune from the University of Nairobi. I teach there, and I'm also a researcher, and it's a great pleasure to be here. Now maybe we can go to my presentation. This is the topic that I'm going to dwell on, rather facilitate the discussion. I know there are so many scientists and also researchers in the room. So researchers' perspective on the role of science in food system transformation. Science is wide. There is natural science, there is social science, the hard and the soft. Even our young children are also scientists because you've interacted with them that ask the questions that scientists ask. Why? You know, in Swahili, kwa nini? They'll want to know, okay, why are you posing? Don't go there, don't do that. So science is about the why, the where, the who, and importantly, the how. So it is that systematic approach when we want to find an intervention into something, and more importantly, generate new ideas and also new knowledge that can inform an impact or even development. Yes. So now that we are talking about food systems, I thought it was important to see how we are doing as a globe. And of course, the United Nations World Food Program already tells us we are not doing good because millions of people globally are still food insecure. You can see like in Africa, sorry I don't have a pointer, you can see like in Africa where we have the yellow all here, we really need to do a lot of improvement because we are food insecure, particularly because we have insufficient access, affordability, and also safety issues to do with our food. And this is exacerbated by issues of land degradation, climate change that negatively impact on our livelihoods, including ecosystems, and more importantly, also the milestones that were made have been drawn back, set back by the pandemic that was so global, the COVID-19. So if we have to have interventions and trades that try to reverse all this, climate change, land degradation, and also some of the natural calamities, then science is very key and comes in to provide some of those solutions. So how is the research and science helping in all those challenges that we are facing as a globe? Science is important, and also research or researchers, because they are the ones that drive innovations. They drive evidence. And why is this important? Because it will transform you know, a projection, a scenario which is healthier, sustainable, and a word which I really like, equitable. When we talk of equity, inclusivity, we are not only talking about the youth that were here this morning, but also of men and women, and across all the countries, you know, whether developed and underdeveloped. And one thing that is tying us together, and that has been evidenced by science, is the Sustainable Development Goals. It says no country yet is food secure. Okay, even if there are those that are really, you know, advanced, their issues on food security, sustainable systems have been solved. But the question is sustainability. How sustainable is that? So also science is coming in to help on aspects of food security. The government was here in the morning, represented by county government, and they tell us the amount of losses that we have to suffer in the process of production, transport, consumption, and even that has to return to the environment. Also, science comes in to unpack all this. Good governance. I'm in an institute, Wangari Maathai Institute, where we offer training on environmental governance and management, trying to unpack, to see the theory and practice of these policies, legislations that are supportive of perhaps the environment and more particularly of food systems. And importantly, science researchers will help because they are the linkages, the networks. You know, it's like I see scientists and even researchers to be like the middle actors, because they are the ones who kind of generate the information. They have to feed to the policymakers, and at the end of the day, they also have to feed to the practitioners. So that evidence-based policies and practices, and also we need to revisit the true value of food. We need to ask ourselves, the coffee that we are taking, does it consider the full value of the food? Does it consider the environmental cost of pollution, whether soil, air pollution? Does it consider all that? And the final sanitary measures that we have to take in place. Next slide, please. So, as I said, we have so many disciplines of science. For example, bioscience innovation is really coming in handy to help us in solving the food system challenges, including issues of ICT, where we have to do like mapping, which are the most vulnerable groups, the GIS, the global information systems, telling us which lands are degraded, which ones are, you know, not degraded, and what intervention we need to be able to sustain reverse all that for improved resilience of livelihoods and also the environment. And more importantly, also the social sciences, they come in and actors and also informing us where are these nitty-gritties, the small vulnerable groups, the marginalized, where we need really to employ all these technologies, innovations, new ideas, so as to be able to inform sustainability of the food systems. Yeah, so maybe more closely we can look at some of the examples that we already maybe are aware of. That is science beyond business as usual. We can see crop sensing technologies. Some of you might have used them or even heard of them. And a good example is in Mexico, where crop sensing has been used in aspect of improving soil fertility. And you can see the documented amount of yields that have been increased, and also reduction of the greenhouse gases among the wheat farmers. More importantly is the development of drought-tolerant crops and livestock for sustainable food systems, and that is underpinned in science. Here we have a picture on finger millet, which is drought-tolerant. Also a camel now, which is more recommended for arid and semi-arid areas, wherever ecology it might be, so that they are able to adapt better to effects of climate change. We also have action research or even science, where the scientists can be able to keep on to investigate and keep on improving and testing their locally adaptable cultivars and breeds of livestock. Yeah, so science, as we said, it is not about the lab. It is not about, all the time being in classroom with the screens and the, the mark pens, the chalks and all that. We have to take these technologies to these farmers. So here is a good example that I'm actually proud of as a scientist, as a researcher. You see, up there is quite a degraded ecosystem. You can see the gullies there. This land is not productive. And as the buzzword here is about sustainable food systems, we cannot achieve sustainable food systems with the first figure. So what is it? Perhaps even the farmers, knew of the technologies that, or even what was happening on their land. What is it here? This is what we call farmer-managed natural regeneration. It is until scientists went in to tell these farmers in one of the arid and semi-arid counties in Kenya that, alas, look, some of the trees that are sprouting naturally, that like the acacia, don't cut them, leave them, they will grow. And they have naturally regenerated, but the farmer has to fence. That is why we say assisted or farmer managed, so that they are not invaded, predated by the goats and all that. And look at the ecosystem, how it looks. And maybe they can even go further to employ what the VI agroforestry was advocating for, agroforestry measures. And all those will result into sustainable landscapes that are important. And all this is unraveled and underpinned in science. Still, science is important when it comes to biotification of crops. Maybe we had a sweet potato this morning, or even uji, porridge and all that. Maybe we took all that, which is biofortified with vitamins and all that. And these are common crops that have been biofortified so that they are more nutritious, so as to be able to overcome the issues of malnutrition and all that. Still, science and technologies comes in because there is aspect of value addition. And why is value addition important? Because besides helping restore the ecologies, it is really important in creating employment and also in reducing the post-harvest losses. In Africa, we say, yes, we could be food insecure at the production level, but a lot of waste. We experience a lot of waste for the food, for the water, everything else. And science needs to come in handy and provide these technologies that are applicable, not the complicated one, even simple ones that can be adapted by the farmers. The next one, please. And how do we strengthen the capabilities and science policy interface? The government of Kenya, through the Nairobi County, already identified researchers, scientists, as important stakeholders, because, as I say, we are like this, the core, the center of all this into sustainability of the food systems. So we need investment in research. We also need, investment to continue generating this evidence in form of data, models, and methods, and at the same time that can be unpacked and utilized by the end user. We also need to revisit, I'm happy the government is here to increase a little bit, in the case of Kenya, Nairobi, the allocation that we do to agriculture. As much as we do to the roads, let us also have an outstanding budget for agriculture, because like in Africa, we say it employs more than 70% of the population. So we cannot afford to underfund it. So we also strengthen the research institutions, including the academia, and embrace public-private partnership. And more importantly, let us reduce on, we should address intellectual property rights. So my innovation should be my innovation, your innovation. So less of, stealing and all that, just to use a layman's language. And the other slide quickly. So this is just to emphasize the importance of research, how we come in as sifters, synthesizers, and all that of the hard science that we generate. We try to communicate it to the policy makers so that at the end of the day, it is assimilated by the beneficiaries. And already the University of Nairobi in Kenya is setting a pace in this, because we have a docket where every researcher student is encouraged to write policy briefs briefs, and we are doing that. For the last 2 days, we have been also trying to see how we can be able to communicate better through translating science into policy in the AgriForce program. The other slide. So this is towards my last 2 slides. For us to succeed is that many of the innovation really have to be accessible and also affordable to the small-scale producers. The next slide. And also for science to succeed is that it must be, information should not be privatized. Should be shared openly, even in classroom setup like this, experiential learning, peer-to-peer, and also publication in bullets that even the local community can understand, even if it means translating them into their local language. And then we say, for science to be translated into practice, we are stronger together, none is better than us all, and therefore we have to co-learn, we have to co-produce, to collaborate, and then also importantly communicate and translate science into policy and practice, and more importantly, we co-design with the farmers. So it's like starting from the below there, the grassroots level, and then going up. Yes, so all this is what is needed for sustainable food systems, that we take a systematic, a systems thinking other than a single discipline innovation, kind of a multidisciplinary approach, and then that will lead us to enhanced collaboration. All the C's that I have talked about, co-design, co-learning, and learning, collaboration, communicate, and more importantly, we increase investment in research and development. We also need strong institutions. Accountability is also important, and also the monitoring, evaluation, and learning, and also we leverage research for science-based evidence on policymakers' needs. And thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Jane. That was really good. I wonder if you now are capturing the kind of ground thinking behind SIANI and the importance that we bring all these sectors together. So we have heard from the government, we have heard from academia, we heard from the private sector, from the youth, and also from the civil society, and how important it is that we get these experiences brought to us when we are supposed to resolve complex systems, as Jane described, food systems. And now there was also one part of our groups that we work with, and these are the UN organizations, and we are super happy that we have with us today also representatives from World Food Program based here in Nairobi. So we have, oh, sorry, I don't have the names. Please come up here, Courtney and Caroline from World Food Program, and we will hear what is your role in this food system transformation. Please. Yeah, Courtney, Caroline, please.
Hello everyone, good morning. Yep, my name is Courtney Bennett. It's a pleasure to be here with you this morning. I sit in the Regional Bureau in Nairobi as the Food Systems Process Manager, which means I look at supporting the technical units on the how do we do the transformation, how do we integrate our activities, and then I also have another job where I'm the External Partnerships Manager as well. So coming to events like this is really great because I get to meet with so many of the targeted people that we need to work to achieve a transformative food system.
And hi, good morning, everybody. My name is Caroline. I lead a new role in WFP, which is called the Global Partnerships Lab. So I have a global role, but based here in Nairobi. And my job is looking at how we evolve, how we work with the local private sector. So Courtney knows that I'm trying to understand how we approach this in WFP, so invited me to come along with him today so I can also learn from all of you in this food system space.
Well, thank you very much, Caroline. So food systems for WFP is a relatively new area which we are intentionally working in, deliberately working in. And I put some of our regional food system strategy documents at the back, and I'm very happy to see they've all gone. But one of the key areas in it talks about why WFP. When we started this discussion corporately and at the regional level, there was a lack of understanding perhaps on what is a food system. And the way that we described it is that a fish swims in water, but it doesn't know that it's in water. WFP does food systems, but traditionally, because of our humanitarian mandate, not recognizing fully the extent in which you play a role in a food system, both as an implementer and a convener and an advocator and a mediator, depending on which thematic area you're looking at. So, of course, as we all know, in 2021, the Food Systems Summit, United Nations Food Systems Summit, was called to action in response to a large-scale global food crisis that was on the horizon and building up. And WFP played a convening role, leading on a number of the key pillars. That's at the corporate level. At a regional level, we realized that our traditional programming, when we were focusing specifically on humanitarianism, with resilience as well, was not meeting the ever-growing needs. We know that for every dollar went in, there was more required to address more and more complex and diverse issues relating to food security in the region. We also know that this region is one of the most climate exposed on the planet. I believe it's the second most climate exposed region on the planet. And so when you layer that in, the problem becomes even more complex. Then when you address land rights, gender issues, it becomes more complex. Youth unemployment, it becomes more complex. And so in response to the Food Systems Summit, we had the flexibility in the region to bring on board a secondee from the Rockefeller Foundation who co-penned our regional food systems strategy. And this strategy has been our guiding document for the last 3 years. And the document essentially says that we must look at broadening our partnerships as an organization. Traditionally for WFP, again, when we talk about partnerships, it's always been on the financial side, the donors, USAID, BHA, ECHO, so on and so forth, looking at specifically humanitarianism support. When you look at it through a food systems lens, a transformative food systems lens, and took a step back, we realized there was a myriad of actors, you all in this room, who we needed to become better partners with in order to support contributing and strengthening transformative food systems. And so that's really the outcome of the food systems strategy that we have. It's to look at it as systems thinking. It's the how are we going to strengthen along different value chains with different communities. I really like what some of the colleagues earlier today have said when we were saying sustainability and equity in particular. When we talk about equity, we look at the most vulnerable of the most vulnerable with the most vulnerable. Men and women, sure, that's gender, but you want to make transformative gender change, you have to look at the root drivers that affects the men, the women, the boys, and the girls. So it's a more intentional approach to addressing and supporting key stakeholders, actors in transforming food systems. So when we look at the partnerships types for WFP, I'll start with my favorite because it's a passion of mine, is on the research side. It's academia, understanding how are we going to make these changes? What is the environment that we actually work in as an organization? You know, I think it's a fair critique to say that maybe for WFP, from our humanitarian past, we're always at the front line, we're always there. And that's how we've always worked. But in order to achieve an internal change of this cataclysmic change that we're having, shifting the needle completely, we have to understand the environment that we're working in. And of course, we are not the experts on that. We have colleagues from Makerere University and the University of Nairobi that we've worked with before in a number of areas to inform our programming. If we want to look at, again, gender transformative actions in the field, it's not just a matter of giving women money to go and buy more food. It's not just a matter of doing financial literacy training for women so that they understand the value of what's on the market. It's understanding the root drivers that affect them at the household level, at the community level, and looking at how WFP can partner with those individuals to make these transformative changes. So this is where we come in from the research side, is having experts on that. On the institutional side, we look at, again, universities, but now it's more on the frameworks, the food systems framework. And so actually at the moment, we're working with Wageningen University in the Netherlands, who we've partnered with to create a regional food systems learning course, which we'll be finishing today, on training our staff. Okay, this is a new area for WFP. You've been doing your thematic area, nutrition, gender, resilience, so on and so forth, for 10, 15 years. But as we are changing as an organization, it's also opening up the mind and realizing how is that going to affect your work? Where can you now plug in thematically to support another unit to have enhanced outcomes? We also have private sector. Maybe I hand over to Caroline on this one.
Yeah, so maybe before I get into the details of local private sector, I'll just give you a bit of a a bit of background about WFP globally. And thanks to Jane, who very rightly said, I'm not sure where she is now, but who very rightly said in the previous presentation that hunger is getting worse, not better. WFP this year has our biggest funding gap ever in our history. We're 60 years old this year. Our needs globally are $20 billion. What we think we can fundraise is $10 billion. That's still an enormous amount of money, but you can see that the needs way outstrip what we could ever fundraise, and we're really good at fundraising. So we need to take a different approach to not only looking at how we serve humanitarian beneficiaries, but also how we're reducing those needs. That 20 billion needs to come down if we're ever going to help the most vulnerable and marginalized. So why do we need to look more carefully at local private sector? And you are all food systems experts, I'm not. But what I've heard from all of you, and I hear from Courtney all the time, is that local private sector are the drivers of change in food systems. And WFP is a big food system player. We, last year, we bought $3.3 billion of food. We're the largest buyer in Africa of staple crops. So we have a really important role to play in systems change. And we know that what we do can also be a catalyst and accelerator for other actors as well, because we're trusted and we're global. So to talk a bit about how we need to work better with the local private sector, I'm going to talk about two different areas. So first of all is through our own programming. As you all know, we have substantial programs, and WFP is increasingly buying locally for our local programs. And we have a new policy called the Local Regional Food Procurement Policy, which enables us to do that better. So when we buy locally, we buy through traders. We can't buy directly from smallholder farmers. We've tried, we failed. We can't do it. So we buy through traders. But what we're increasingly doing is working with those traders to see who they are buying from. So, and if they can prove to us that they bought from smallholder farmers, then we can pay them more. So we are using our leverage in the food system to help move how traders are acting and buying. And we're also looking to see how we can digitize that procurement, because what we know is there's often there's no visibility on that first mile of smallholders into traders. But then as a food system player, we need to not just think about what we do, but what we can convene. And we're increasingly starting to look at how we have a role in supporting agribusiness. And your example at Beta Blockers, I was so happy to see it, is exactly what we're trying to do. So what is WFP's role in getting capital, advice into local private sector players in the food system, which can then drive change? And what's WFP's role in being able to aggregate these investable businesses for global financial markets to then be able to direct capital towards? What we hear from DFIs is that their biggest problem is that aggregation of investable businesses. So WFP has a role to help people become investable, like you have, and also to aggregate so it's easier for those financial flows to come in. But it's a big change for WFP. That's not our traditional programming. Our traditional programming, we're 86% crisis-driven, and these crises are getting worse, more protracted over time. So we are in a moment where we need to understand what is our role and how do we effectively work with local private sector to help reduce those needs. And I'm hoping that in the conversations later, some of you will have some great ideas for us.
Thank you. Maybe I can just add on to Caroline's point on the local and regional food procurement policy, the LRFPP, in that that's a really key example for WFP of our intention to work closer to the gate, which is what we call the gate being the farm, the smallholder farmer, working as close as possible to them to make an impactful change. We look at it through financial, we look at it through socioeconomic, we look at it through youth, we look at it through employment. And as Caroline rightly said, the LRFPP allows us to buy at a premium from smallholder farmers and the actors just above them if they're able to prove the traceability element. It's not that we want to take over and monopolize the market, but it's recognizing and being the buffer between the smallholder farmers and the cooperatives and the predatory tactics of the market, providing them with financial literacy, business literacy, tools, low-scale mechanization to professionalize them, because we also know that they grow the food. I mean, if you don't look at them at the root, it doesn't matter what changes you make during further up the value chain. You have to look at the key actor, which is the smallholder farmer. Especially if we want to look at things like post-harvest management, or again, the local regional food procurement policy. We know that for post-harvest management, for example, in Ethiopia, in 2021, they lost the equivalent of USD $1.5 billion through poor agricultural practices linked to post-harvest management. What WFP is doing in Ethiopia is supporting the government to identify where in the value chain these macro losses are occurring so that they can be addressed. If we look at, for example, again, the local and regional food procurement policy and WFP's commitment to localizing its support to the smallholder farmers and their communities, in 2019, we purchased 28,000 metric tons from smallholder farmers, and that's across a myriad of staple crops like maize, sorghum, wheat, teff, millet, and rice. In 2022, that increased to 94,000 metric tons, so a significant increase from WFP's demonstrating its commitment to smallholder farmers. I think also what's key to mention, which I think some of the earlier speakers discussed, was this concept of the right to food, and the individual's right to access to food, equitable, nutritious, safe food. And earlier this year, I attended in Berlin a conference on the Policies Against Hunger conference hosted by the two German ministries. And I met with a Pakistani NGO leader, his name is Shahid Ali, for Fast Rural Development Program. And he said the world's obsession is on the smallholder farmer. We always talk about the smallholder farmer is the one that is producing the food for the world. But if you don't understand that the smallholder farmer's family is hungry first, that they are not just a tool to feed us, but their families are hungry first, then you're missing a critical part of the intervention to address transformative food systems change. And so this is something that we have been reiterating at events like this, internally, with our donor partners, is to look at them as both a driver to addressing it, but also recognizing that, especially in this region, the complex crises that are happening, that are overlapped, is directly affecting their security, their food security at the same time. Maybe I hand over.
Yes, thank you so much. Perfect, and with a little time for us as well. It was so good. Thank you, Courtney and Caroline. Excellent presentation. And we are so lucky also because the missing part in this morning is hearing the voice for those who represent farmers and food producers. And I am so pleased and honored to have Stephen Muchiri here. And he is the CEO for the Eastern Africa Farmers Federation. Stephen, may I ask you to step forward and presentation? Is that okay? Yeah. Perfect.
Okay. So good morning. I think my presentation is on. Yeah, so I'll be speaking about farmers' perspectives on collaboration around food system transformation. So I have a couple of slides next. So that would be the outline of my presentation, a slide about us, our membership, our plan, and a bit of context. Next. So this is our organization. We are in 10 countries, half of Sudan plus the rest of East Africa. We are on our third strategic plan, looking at transforming small-scale agriculture to be a rewarding investment. We have a membership of 25 million smallholder farmers from 24 national apex organizations. And we are part of the Pan-African Farmers Organization, which is in 48 countries in Africa, with over 80 million members and 73 national institutions. Next. So like I said, we are on our third plan, and it's looking at transformation. And we have 5 components, looking at aggregation, leveraging digital technology, looking at economic services, policies, as well as the capacity of our membership. Next. So what are food systems? And I think that's the subject of I'm presenting today. So a food system is basically a sum of actors, sum of interactions along value chains. And in our own perspectives, as farmers, we look at it from the input side, production side, value addition, logistics, markets, and post-harvest. And for a food system to work, all these components have to be mutually reinforcing each other. There has to be support of each component, looking at issues of policy, technical support, relationships, and investments. Next. But we know our sector we are in, agriculture, it's very complex. There are very, very, very many moving parts, competing interests as well. So for example, when it comes to policies, it's an area of policies, but again, it's intertwined with politics. We have very many actors. I think I talked about the entire food system, and you have to look at how all these actors are seeing value in relating with you. We have we intertwine with other sectors, so agriculture relates to manufacturing, relates to logistics, relates to all these things, so quite complex. There are a lot of interests, even donors have interests, investors have interests, and it is seeing how you actually balance those interests with these other external interests. Of course, there are many external factors. I think climate change is the biggest external factor, but you have geopolitics, and I think the Ukraine and all these discussions we've been having. Next. So in our view, when it comes to food transformation, we really need to look at how we build those partnerships. We can't run away from them. Yeah, we can't run away from those partnerships. If you work alone, you work in a silo, as a farm organization, then there's nowhere to go. And for us to look at partnerships in 2 ways. One is vertical partnerships. I think I talked about the farm to fork. But also we look at horizontal partnerships, because you're also looking at, among ourselves as farm organizations, how do we relate with each other? How do we connect with our membership all the way to the local level, to the village? And we look at public, private, producer partnerships. Producers are always left out in partnerships, yet they actually play a huge role in ensuring that food transformation, because we're actually the foundations for food transformation. Without us, we can't be discussing food transformation. In fact, I know from my members, they have an issue with transformation, the word transformation, especially in Africa. Yeah? Because the question you asked, and I'll show you some of the figures, is the continent being a food deficit continent. Now we're at $50 billion worth of food imports. What are you transforming? Yeah, so that's a bit the question. And the question usually is, whose agenda is it then? Is it us as Africans pushing for transformation, or is it coming from other quarters? Anyway, so what's the importance about PPPs? I think it's pretty clear. Information sharing, there's still a lot of asymmetry when it comes to information. Farmers, we've been here for the last 2 days, and you can actually see there's a problem of trickle of information all the way to the farmer level. There's a challenge of knowledge. You know, information is information, knowledge is different, you know. So there's a challenge across just that whole landscape of information and knowledge. Issues of capacity building. I think the last 2 days we've seen even scientists still need their capacity built. So everybody needs to continue upping their game as far as capacity building is concerned. I think agriculture has become very expensive, and the fragmentation of value chains is making it transaction costs go up. So we have to look at how to reduce this, to improve efficiency, and hence the reason for the partnerships. Advocacy. We can't advocate alone as farmers. We advocate together with our business colleagues. We advocate with NGOs. We advocate with research institutions. So we have to figure out, how do you do joint advocacy? Because that's the only way the politicians will listen to us. Fundraising. Now, fundraising is definitely a challenge, and I think everyone here knows the challenge they're having fundraising now. The fundraising landscape has completely changed. You have to look at having partnerships, building consortia, ensuring that those relationships are helping you, raise resources. But also, even the private sector is also looking for donor funding. So we have to also look at how we're also relating with them. Issues of technologies. I think it was very clear the last 2 days, adoption is still very low. Yeah, we are still not being very innovative. Yeah, so the technologies out there, they may not be enough, but we are not still adopting them. And then, of course, consultations, planning, something we don't do in Africa, foresight, something we need to invest in. Next. I think I'm almost ending. So what are we doing as a federation when it comes to that conversation? First of all, as an association, we've tried to professionalize what we actually do. So we actually have a plan, and all our colleagues under the PAFO system also have a plan. So meaning that we are ready to engage at an equal level. But number two, looking at the role we actually play as a farm organization, it means that we have to do a lot of heavy lifting to be recognized, to be appreciated, for people to invite us to their meetings, for people to come to our meetings and invite them. So for all the governments we work with, we have a memorandum of understanding, which actually means that we are signatory to regional discussions on policy. I think we all know about CADIP. We also work with Parliament. We've pushed a number of laws through the regional Parliament, and Parliament also invites us to actually make a comment or critic to some of the regional laws that are actually being passed. So this is the East Africa Community, the regional Parliament, this COMESA, International IGAD in Djibouti, and the Africa Union Commission. It also means you have to work with private sector. This is the food system thing I was talking about. So these are the guys who buy our product, give us input, and things like that. We have to work with research. And being a regional institution, I've been sitting on the board of ASARECA. We sit on the board of FARA, which is the Forum for Agriculture Research in Africa. And RUFORUM is the regional forum for universities, and we actually sit on those boards. Again, very important. I think we're talking about communication, I think yesterday, and how researchers sometimes have challenges communicating with different forums. So we actually provide that support also for them in terms of how they project communication to farmers. We're working with other farmer organizations. Very important to work with them because it has actually helped us put together our voice. We have an MOU with the Africa Development Bank. It's an important actor in agriculture, and we have it under PAFO. We sit in so many committees, and they're actually important for us. We are working on standards, the Africa Common Free Trade Area, the UN food systems discussion, we were part of that, among many others. You can actually see, for you to get recognition, if you're coming from a farm organization, there's so much we actually need to do as an institution. I think we've tried to do that so that we can actually remain relevant and we can add value to the partnerships that we are actually trying to engage in. Next. So far what have we achieved? Just a few results. On economic services, we actually have a mobile platform. There's 263,000 farmers in Uganda, Rwanda, and Tanzania. We aggregate farmers. I think if you remember, one of the pillars was aggregation. So we're aggregating farmers and connecting them to different services, finance, insurance, markets, mechanization, and so on. And we work with about 25 of those partners. On policies, we've done over 25 policies. And I think the one that stands out is the East Africa Community Cooperative Societies Bill, which again looks at aggregation. Okay? So we're aggregating farmers, and we're looking at how, at the regional level, if it's a rice cooperative, it can amalgamate with other rice cooperatives in the 10 countries. Institute of Development, we're always doing an organizational capacity assessment. I think every 2 years, we're just completing one this year for all our members to understand what's the level of capacity. There are a lot of changes within the year, a lot of external factors you need to look at to ensure that they're also in sync with whatever is happening in the sector. Knowledge management, climate change, I think is a topic of the day. We had a call for action for COP27. We just finalized our call for action for COP28. We'll be in Dubai with other colleagues, trying to see whether we can actually have resources for adaptation, because African agriculture is about adaptation. Women and youth, we have many platforms. You know, we have a platform in partnership with FAO with almost 4,000 youth in Kenya, Uganda, and Rwanda, and they're being trained online. You know, they're able to share and exchange. And I think this platform is candidate for some award. Hopefully, we'll win that award towards the end of the year because of how, you know, it's been active. We have a project with women in the same countries in partnership with FARA, among other things. Next, and I think the last slide. So what are we saying? African agriculture needs a lot of heavy lifting. I think you can see that is one actor, and you have to do so much to actually remain relevant and be recognized. However, we're doing a lot of lip service to the sector, and I think there are many reasons that can explain that. Number one, productivity in Africa has been reducing at a very alarming rate. 5 years ago, the Africa Development Bank told us we're importing $39 billion worth of staples. This year, the AU told us it's 50 billion. And the AFDB is saying in the next 20 years, 30 years, it will be 100 billion. So I think those are serious red flags. We should move away from just conversing and talking. And in my view, build an import substitution program, but focus the funds with the farmer, because the farmer is the one producing. Yeah, let's reduce the route to farmers accessing resources. Number two, I think climate events. And I think the discussions we are having on climate will actually call on everyone who is here to support our position around adaptation and funds for adaptation. But most importantly, because it's a challenge to all of us, when you go for these meetings, you ask, give us bankable proposals on adaptation, which I think is a challenge, because when you look at how farmers adapt, the approaches are very simplistic. They are not attractive to an investor. So we need to figure out more innovative ways of putting together adaptation projects. Investment in agriculture. Those of you here know about CADIP. 20 years ago, it was agreed in Maputo. 20 years later, none of the countries has met its investment objective. So, I don't know, we have to look at innovative ways of investing, because clearly, the public sector is giving lip service, like I said. Scale. I think this is a challenge that I see in many places. We come for meetings like this, anyone who doesn't understand this space leaves feeling that so much is happening in agriculture, so many successes all over. Go to the next meeting, the same. But in actual sense, these are just islands of success. If there's no scale, we will remain in that space, thinking that things are happening, but things are really not happening. Yeah? So I think we need to look at how, of the few success stories that we have, how do we build scale? And how do you build sustainability around that scale? Policy implementation. I think we can talk about policy till next year, because the problem with policy in Africa is that it's not predictable. If I give an example of Kenya, Kenyans who are here, within a span of 2 weeks, there has been different policies being released by government. How do you invest as a long term? Yeah. So that is a challenge, not only for Kenya, but for most of the countries in Africa. Fragmentation of value chains, I think we all know this. We are still in very fragmented value chains. Small and fragmented. Yeah? So I don't know how this can change, but I think there's a lot of affirmative action to look at how this can actually change. So we need to focus more, in my view, in transitioning towards more sustainable forms of agriculture, to actually figure out how we can actually optimize our productivity as a country, as a continent, and at the global level. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much. Please stay here. Stay here. Stay. You can stay here. Yeah. Yeah. Yes. 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 And I invite Courtney and Caroline and Jane. Please join us. And you even get chairs to feel comfortable. We have only one microphone because of our Zooming, and so that's why we circulate the microphone. I have a lot of questions prepared, but I would like to open up to the audience. If you have any questions, that would be very interesting if you raise your hand and we can start. Yeah, we have a number of questions. Is that okay with you? Do you feel comfortable? Good. And we need someone to have a microphone in the room. We have Cynthia here, and we have Ngando explaining the question. So let's start with John. You are closest. Okay.
Thank you very much. My question is to Caroline and Bennett. You work in areas of chronic emergencies, like Somalia, for example, Mogadishu. Resources are reducing, but the emergencies are increasing. So it is need to transition from the emergency that you support and ensure that there is rebuilding of livelihoods over time. So how do you do that? It might be captured in your strategy, but how are you practically doing that? Thank you.
Yes, who wants to answer? Yeah, to the region.
Thanks, John. That's a really easy question to answer. I think that if you want to use the case of Somalia, it is a very challenging operational environment. I think that's the first point we have to understand. Then we have to understand it's a very politically challenging environment. These are two inescapable factors. It's a very volatile operational environment. You might be evacuated one day, you can't go to the field the other day. Your cooperating partners are in the deep field, you can't get to them, and they're moving around a lot. It's an enigma, quite frankly. It really is, and this is something that the donors have come to us, and we have gone to governments, and we have gone to think tanks, we've gone to the best of the best, some of you are in this room, to say, how can we support Somalia transition, even in part from a humanitarian focus, building in resilience to strengthen local food systems, to strengthen communities, to have the capacity to withstand external shocks and stresses. Honestly, I do not have the answer. What we are doing as a programmatic level is focusing more on our resilience programming. This is the area that WFP has an expertise in. But at the same time, we know that we're not the only actors on the ground, and we're looking at how we can partner with different individuals to strengthen our programming and vice versa. Somalia has been a challenge for a number of governments, has been a challenge for a number of donors, other UN agencies, and I hope you don't find my answer as a cop-out, because I don't think anyone has a silver bullet. But I do believe that having these types of discussions with multi-stakeholder engagements, rather than seeing it from one perspective, is how we'll get to a better opportunity to support Somalia. But again, it's almost an unanswerable question at this moment in time, because it's been a question that we've been asking for decades. I'm 35. I know this question was asked before I was born. Yeah, but for WFP, again, it's the intentional transition in looking at our programming specifically and saying, yes, maybe 86, 87% of our funding goes to humanitarianism, but we understand that if we can address a few of those root drivers for food insecurity as close to the ground as possible, then we are doing offsetting some of these issues further up the chain. But funding is a systematic issue across the sector right now, and there are impacts with that.
I see a forest of hands now. So please, yeah, let's take a lady, please.
Okay, thank you so much for this opportunity and the very captivating and informative presentations. My question is to the WFP team. You mentioned that you've been in existence for like 60 years, and from what I know is that you've been working with vulnerable communities in rural areas, and yet you mentioned that one of your policies is to buy produce from those vulnerable communities. And my question is, what have been the bottlenecks that have made it hard for you to actually procure from those communities? Because they are the ones that you've been helping out, the ones that you've been giving aid to, and yet you are not procuring from them. And my second question is, how do people who are working with these communities, like researchers and other organizations that are trying to link these communities to market? How do we go about reaching out to you so that we link them to you guys? Thank you.
Let me start with an administrative issue we have, and then Courtney can talk about the food system stuff. So WFP tried to buy directly from smallholder farmers. We tried with a very big grant from the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation. Administratively, we can't do it. It's too expensive for us to be paying every individual cooperative, which is why we've learned from that experience that we need to procure through traders. So now we have our indirect smallholder farmer procurement working with traders. Ideally, WFP would buy directly from smallholder farmers. We can't physically do it operationally.
Thanks, Caroline. I think maybe I can give an anecdote. 2 weeks ago, I was in Karamoja working or doing a donor visit, and we visited a predominantly women-focused cooperative. And they asked a similar question to your second question, which was, how can you support us link to markets in a more efficient manner? When the local regional food procurement policy was published in 2018, 2019, it was WFP's internal commitment to looking at how it can increase the direct procurement or indirect procurement from smallholder farmers. So again, as Caroline said, we can't buy directly from them because it's too financially expensive and complex for our huge financial structure, but we're looking at actors above who we can incentivize to buy more from those farmers. And they said, the cooperative that I was working with, they said we need support on financial literacy. We need support in getting access to financial institutions so that we can have bank accounts. When we have these programs, it's not that we sit in our crystal tower and we create them. We have direct correspondences with the individuals that we are looking to support. When we build up our financial literacy packets on education, on access, sometimes coming in, sometimes as WFP as a mediator between the banks and the cooperatives, it comes from them. We say, what do you need our support for? You want to get to a bank? You want a bank account so that you can deposit your funds directly in and become a more dynamic actor in the market? How do we do that? We do it together. So that's just one example of how WFP looks at supporting, creating that market connection. So you have to remind me of your first question. I can't remember, I'm sorry.
How to link farmers to...
Yeah, so what we've done as a federation, like I said earlier, we have recognized the importance of aggregation. And our e-platform, which is similar to, I think, the farm to fork arrangement that WFP and other institutions have, is meant to address that disconnect between the farmer and the market. And I think even some of our members are supplying to WFP in Kapchorwa and so forth and so on. So the whole idea is to reach the last mile. And we have aggregation centers that are actually meant to address the logistical challenge that WFP is actually talking about. And our aggregation centers are actually GPS connected. So even we have a buyer that we actually are engaging with. We sell to Export Trading Group. And they actually send trucks to these centers and actually pick from there. And what we actually do is that for all the actors that we actually work with, they actually help us in extension. So for example, the input guy will visit the farmer 1 week, the insurance guy will visit the other week, the loan guy will visit the other week, we will visit our own week, the buyer will visit. So the farmer feels that we are all very interested with the product they're actually having, and I think it helps a lot in terms of them giving us almost all the product, because sometimes when you're budgeting, I think we budget 70% of us collecting 70% of the expected harvest. So I think there are still challenges that we still need to address. There are still very many farmers who are not yet connected, they're not yet linked, they're still having challenges on cost of credit. Uganda, cost of credit is very expensive. Loans are very expensive. Even through our SACCOs, Savings and Credit Organization, is still very expensive. And some of those circles still have to borrow from commercial banks to be able to meet the loan demand. So there are still very many challenges that we need to deal with, and that's what I was talking about, the partnerships. Yeah, looking at how we can reduce transaction costs. I have examples of how financial institutions have reduced the cost of lending over time just because of having the farmer's history and the farmer being able to pay over time, you know. So they're able to revise the logarithm around the lending. So I think it's always work in progress. There are always challenges because of finance, because sometimes you have money, then you're running, and then there are no resources, then there's a gap. But I think we need to look at how to work more and work better as organizations in this space, and not to compete, you know, but to really complement each other.
Thank you so much. Yes, very important question. Let's see, give the microphone to someone who has not had a question yet. Cynthia, please. There's a lady in the back and a man here in the front, and I think that's the two questions we'll have. And then coffee, for those who didn't have coffee.
Okay, thank you for the opportunity. My name is Kibet. Now, my question goes to our friends from WFP. I know what John had asked was actually something I also had in mind. So I just changed my question a little bit. Because you've always been from crisis-based to now you're going to resilient-based sort of approaches. First thing that came to mind is that that space also has not been vacant. It's always been having other people players there, and particularly FAO. It's been there for a long time. Are you sort of cannibalizing in their space in this case, or have you found a formula in which you're going to be building synergies, for example? And now, being that you're starting from
that's one question.
Yes.
Right. Because we are running out.
Okay, thanks.
Thank you. I think my colleague from the university here might also appreciate some questions. So, as I'm sure you're all aware, there are the Rome-based agencies, which are the food-based agencies based in Rome. Those are WFP, IFAD, and FAO. And we have a corporate policy of information sharing, partnership sharing, so on and so forth with them. FAO is a normative agency. They do world-class work in research and policy creation. They are the bedrock of many of WFP and IFAD and other agencies' work, but they are normative. We work together from their information perspective, the data we collect on the ground, and we create programs, in specific joint programs together. So it's not that we're encroaching in their space, we're overlapping interventions. So there might be a perception, for example, oh, WFP is moving into resilience, WFP is moving into food systems, but at a corporate level, these are agreements that we have standing in our constitution. At a regional level, we sit together in different forums and committees, and then at a country office level and a field level, of course, you don't go into an area and it's just FAO supporting, or WFP supporting, or UNDP, or UNICEF. There's overlapping programs that happens through the United Nations country teams. So that's just one example. And also I'd like to add that I think it was last week, FAO released a new paper called The True Cost of Food, I think it is, looking at the multisectoral conditions of the real cost of inaction and action. And if you look in the annexes, you'll see that a lot of that data also comes from the WFP. So it's again an example of how we work together as corporate UN agencies.
We have one question in the back. I just want to say that SIDA was one of the first financing organizations supporting a joint program, WFP, FAO, and IFAD, in supporting rural women's empowerment. And it has been very, very successful, but it has only been SIDA and Norway's supporting it, but we see now other donors coming in. But it's a way also to, because you are complementary, so you can gain a lot of things. Now, to South Africa, we have a question. But hopefully it's not for WFP.
Unfortunately, it is. I just want, out of interest, how does WFP select countries of interest? Because when I looked at the map, South Africa is not there, and from a food index that was released last month, it shows that 45% of the population in South Africa is going to be food insecure. So I just wanted to know how is the selection criteria modeled, because we would love to invite you or have you in South Africa to also significantly contribute towards reduction of food insecurity.
So firstly, we have a very big presence in South Africa. We have our regional bureau there for Southern Africa. So we have a big policy presence, let's say, within South Africa, although we do not have an operational presence. Wherever WFP is, and this goes for pretty much every UN agency, is at the request of the local government. WFP does not choose to go somewhere. WFP is invited by the local government where we can bring value based on our operational mandate. So that's where we start from. And then, of course, WFP, in terms of what types of interventions it does, depends on a lot of the research that FAO does in terms of what is the benefit we can bring in that country. So we are in South Africa, just not in an operational sense, and I can put you in touch.
So, let me have a question for Jane and one for Stephen as well, because, yes, so I think I really would like to, you have talked about farmers, but we have touched upon it, Stephen, but can you emphasize the cooperatives' roles in this process? And your whole presentation was about it, but still, I think after all these questions.
Yeah, so the cooperative model has been, over the years, viewed as the best business model for farmers. Because I think most of the people have a challenge accessing or working with individual farmers. And as a regional institution, we've done our assessments and zeroed down, at least on cooperative as being one of the best models to actually be able to put farmers together. And I think there are many examples of how cooperatives have been able to create impact in the sector, but also have impact globally. We work with the Rabobank, for example. We've taken our members to India to see, the power of cooperatives. In fact, our e-granary platform is based on a mobile platform run by the Indian Farmers Fertilizer Cooperative, which is the largest agriculture cooperative by turnover. So I think it's something we are trying to pursue, because if it's run well and our law is actually assented to, it hasn't been assented to by the heads of state, we'll be able to form regional cooperatives under each commodity. And I think those will be actually a powerhouse in as far as some of the things I talked about, PPPs are concerned, information sharing and so forth, regional trade, even engaging with the WFP, because I think the challenge you have when you're trying to access markets is the consistency. But if you can procure rice today in Tanzania and tomorrow you procure it in Kenya, and then the other day you're procuring it in Uganda, you have some sense of continuity. If it's access to inputs, then this is a huge, like not just from our e-platform alone, farmers are benefiting from quantity discounts. They're accessing quality inputs, which is a challenge when they actually, as an individual. And I think that's the power I actually see. Within our membership, because the law also covers the SACCOs, the savings and credit cooperatives, we're actually saying, how can they come together and access cheaper money from Europe, from wherever, which our banks are actually accessing, but actually make this money available to the farmer. And like I said, if you're really talking about food insecurity in this continent, if these structures are supported, then it will be easy to direct money directly. Like now, that cooperative in India, I think it receives all the subsidy money that the government of India is giving to farmers. You can actually see the power. And their platform, and this is something I wanted to say because it's something we learned, they have 3.5 million farmers on their extension platform. And they've actually used that power to negotiate a partnership with Bharti Airtel to provide free extension. Yeah, so they actually have a revenue share agreement, meaning that any member who is using the platform, they're able to work out the revenue on that, and they're able to make a decent amount of money at the end of the year. So I think there's power in cooperatives. If you look at it positively, I know my colleagues in Uganda and some in Tanzania, we have an issue with the cooperatives, but I think other than the politics and everything else, governance is a problem even in our countries. I think it's the best route if it's supported. And we really want our law. We have an East Africa President's Summit, I think next week. And you actually want to see whether some of these laws that have not been assented to, and it's listed, can actually be assented to, so you can actually start working on it. Thank you.
I think it looks like a very interesting plan. Also, I have a special question here for Jane from a professor in Uganda.
Good morning. I'm Charles Nwaga from Makerere University in Kampala. Thank you very much, Jane, for your presentation. You talked about innovations and also about how we shouldn't steal information from the generators of that information. But at the same time, I know that there are so many innovations that come out of universities in East Africa, but they never go into society. So I'm wondering if there's anything the University of Nairobi is doing to get the research out of your libraries, out of the journals that's generated by Nairobi researchers into solving problems in communities. If there's anything you're doing about that, I'll be happy to learn from it. Thank you.
He should have been here the previous days, yeah?
True. Thank you very much, Professor. Yes, there's a lot that we are doing. Of course, we are cognizant of the fact that researchers need to be an important linkage, providing the knowledge that is generating the knowledge, but more importantly, moving towards a transition where it's put into practice. The last 2 days we've been here talking about agriculture for food security, year 2030, based on the SDG 2. We've had a lot of researchers here from research institutions and also from different universities, not only the University of Nairobi. And we've been asking ourselves, how do we get this research that is swept under the carpet so that we are able to translate it into a language that our communities, that our policy makers understand? And we embrace the importance of the community, the importance of media, because I know I'm so wordy when I write. I cannot detach from my scientific jargons, and that is where we say we need to collaborate and appreciate the presence of key collaborators like media that can help us frame our messages to the targeted beneficiary, in this case, the farmer. You saw a model that I showed here of the farmer-managed natural regeneration. I've written a paper on that. So, and besides the paper on farmer-managed natural regeneration, you saw the land restored there from gullies to a sustainable landscape. That is already on the ground. So it is still on paper for people who can, you know, my fellow scientists, but also to the farmers, we translate into the action that they can be able to implement, integrate. There's so many, like in solid waste management, we talk about the 3 R's, the reduce, reuse, and all that. We are also trying to inculcate knowledge on how you can be able to separate the waste and also add value into it, and in the process also create employment. You saw the briquettes that were being demonstrated there, and that is a province of science into it with the other collaborators. So the answer is scientists, researchers have moved from the province of not only generating the so many journals, peer-reviewed, but also trying to unpack that into a language that can be assimilated by policymakers to inform policy, and also to the farmers, and even in a language that they can be able to understand. Yeah.
Yes, Jane. Thank you so much, Jane. I think that was a very good end of this panel, and I hope also the language is appropriate for WFP, so they can understand it also, you know. This is a good thing. Yeah, but anyhow, we are now getting instruction. We have a break up to 11:50. It's allowed to drink coffee, but please join us here at 11:50. And yeah, is it more information, Yolanda, right now? Okay, enjoy your coffee. Thank you, Stephen, for running through Nairobi. It was great. Thank you also for your presentation. It was very good. Yeah. Hello, can you hear me? Yeah, perfect. So we'll reconvene because we save time and start the conversation. And we have picked this topic because we would like to see how, how life and the profession can change and the challenges ahead and what have you, what can you need to be prepared for. We have heard the whole morning of all the challenges we face, and we also understand there is a critical role for research and innovation in this change. And it has been always, of course, but we would like to see it now from an intergenerational perspective. And I'm very pleased to have Ingrid with me here. I'm pleased for many reasons. She has always supported SIANI, and she's on the steering committee. And Ingrid, you started some years back with your research, and I would like you to talk to people and explain what led you into development research and how has it changed for you as a researcher?
Thank you very much. Yeah, it feels like a bit strange, a new thing to me. Now I'm called in like the oldest person in the room. And usually it's my mother who's 89, so I usually turn to her when I want to know how it was in the past. But I will take on this role realizing that many of you are like my children, so in the 30s. So that's, I will hope I can cope with this. So yeah, what got me into this? And if I look back to what made me interesting, so if you think I was born 1957, so I was a child during sort of the independence movements in many of your countries, even if in the Portuguese colonies came later, so I'm very much aware of that. Apartheid in South Africa, went on also quite late. The American war in Vietnam, other wars. So it was many of those things on. And at that time, it was a lot of talk about political structures, political systems, power relations, and a lot of explanations more from a social science, political science perspective, which I think has been useful for me. In parallel with those things, of course, we also had the humanitarian crisis caused by conflicts and drought, but as you know, it's never drought alone, usually not at least drought alone, it's a combination. So this is sort of was the background landscape. And when we were active in high school or through the church organizations and others, it was more like slogans that freedom for the suppressed, justice cannot wait. It was urgent, but it was about structures and power relations. Of course, the food security and hunger was there, but they were not the root causes, they were maybe effects. So I think that has been like, influencing my way of studying and working. So I started to study development studies in 1979 in Uppsala, and there it was, land reform, education reform, economical development, conflicts, anthropology and ethnography, a lot of examples from Asia at that time, because most literature had come out from Asia, even if things then later have happened in Africa. But I was too much of a natural scientist to only go the social science track. So that's how I combined with studying agricultural science, soil science, agronomy. So that sort of can explain my interest in this area. And what more could I say? I mean, the world has changed a lot, and the role of the scientist. And I would think that doing research for, in, and on development, we are better positioned now than ever. I think, Jane, you gave a very good update on like the present situation. And I really feel, even if the world is not better in all aspects, in many ways, the world is a better place, because now we talk about sustainable development goals on the global level. It's not, some poverty reduction somewhere in the world. No, we are a global world, we work together, and one of the main achievements, I think, is the more equal ways of collaborating between scientists from different disciplines, different countries. So we talked the other day about people say, what should we do about north-south, south-south collaboration? We shouldn't call no. I mean, now we're working globally, and we're working in partnerships, and we're all sharing the same challenges. But we also, as a scientist, I think know much better now how we work across disciplines, how we work more transdisciplinary with other stakeholders, and how we then start now to translate science into policy and practice. So we are better equipped. The world still has a lot of challenges, and of course some new things have been coming in. Climate change wasn't so pronounced at that time, but many other things, resource scarcity, inequity, and also some of those environmental issues were actually larger before, because when I was studying and also being a researcher, we didn't understand air pollution, where it came from, where the air pollution landed, the acidification, and then we learned that actually what you do within a continent affects other countries. Some of the pollutants like mercury and some of they actually travel all around the globe. So in that way, we also became interconnected in the environmental research, which I engaged quite a lot with when my children were small and I couldn't really travel for the development research. But I think that also helped us now when we work on the climate change issues that we are used to and have learned how interconnected we are.
Thank you so much, Ingrid. So that was Ingrid's departure to science and an academic life. Now I would like to listen a little bit from Charles. Introduce yourself. And,
thank you very much, Madeline. My name is Charles Niwagawa, and I'm an associate professor of civil engineering at Makerere University in Kampala, Uganda. And I would like to talk through some points which are over there. And you can just show the next slide, please. So I would like to talk to you about how it all started and how I ended up in this kind of work. Well, in 1999, I graduated with a Bachelor of Science degree in Civil Engineering from Makerere University. And at that time, I had done everything we do in civil engineering. So we do studies in water supply, sanitation, waste management, concrete, highways, structures, and so on. And I was actually very much interested at that time in structural engineering. That's why I did my bachelor's dissertation. Now, when it came to looking for work in 1999, you can just continue to the end of the slide because whatever I want to talk about is there. So when I graduated, I started to look for a job. And I got 3 offers. So one offer was to work with a structural engineering company under an Indian. Another job was to work as a district water officer. And then another was to study master's and be mentored by one of the professors who had taught me. And that was in the field of environmental engineering. I was not very sure what I should do at that moment, so I did some consultations with some colleagues and also my professor, whom I really treasured quite a lot. Right now she works with the African Development Bank. She's called Dr. Maimuna Narubeg. I think some of you might know her. So I went in to work under her as a junior researcher and a teaching assistant in the Department of Civil Engineering at Makerere University. And then I ended up, the work we were doing was actually in sheet. So we are working with the source-separated toilets. And at that time, it became very difficult for me to even go and tell my parents what I am doing. Because they sent me to study civil engineering, and I am doing shit. And I can tell you that up to today, my father is 85 years old, my mother is 79 years old. They are in the village, and I interact with them a lot. I visit them a lot almost every 2 months, but I don't think they know what I do. I decided not to tell them because I was not sure if they could be happy with what I'm doing. But at least I believe they are happy with how I am, and I support them and all that. But what I'm doing, I thought it might not be a good idea to tell. They thought that as a civil engineer should be building highways, should be building airports, structures, high-rise buildings, and so on. But you see, what happened is that when I ended up in this field of shit, it very much connected with my agrarian background because I was born in a village where we were actually tilling the land and eating food from our own efforts. We actually didn't have money and we didn't feel we lacked it. We never went hungry on a single day by just our own work on the fields. We didn't buy any fertilizer. were using animal manure, and our soils were actually fertile. At least they gave us enough food up to the time I left the village, and they are still using it. So what happened when I ended up with urine diversion toilets, research in this field, and at that moment, our idea was to solve a sanitation problem. So there was a drive in late 1990s up to early 2000s to install urine diversion toilets. But then we looked at what happens to the feces and what happens to the urine. While it was possible that some people made use of urine in their gardens, others were not, but they could infiltrate into the ground. So the problem now became the feces. So we started to burn it. Can we actually destroy it? So we used incinerators to burn it. We composted it. You can go to some other 2 photos there. And then we did other work after that. Some people started to like urine diversion toilets, converted them into pit latrines and septic tanks. And then we started to go into what can we do to the solution of the contents from pit latrines and septic tanks. We went into resource recovery aspects, studying how we can deal with fecal sludge. We went into industrial kilns for the use of energy from fecal sludge. We were quite successful, and also quite successful in other utilization pathways, for instance, using of fecal sludge in gardens. Right now we have 2 large treatment plants in Kampala which produce fecal sludge. One producing 2 tons per day, another one producing about 5 tons per day. None of them has ever been stored. The demand for fecal sludge to use it in agriculture is enormous and is quite high. So after that, you can just run through the slides, so you'll see them, but this is what I'm talking about. So then, at some point, it became clear that when you have fecal sludge from pit latrines and septic tanks, if it is emptied and taken to a treatment plant, it's not a problem because the market is there. But then we tried to look at the market demand for these products is much higher. You get more money when you go to the energy route, and you don't get much money when you go to the urine route. So we went back to urine diversion and tried to look at the urine, and this is the way I collect it, by simple modification of males' urinals. Then we collect it, we actually dehydrate it after stabilization, and we get a fertilizer. From that fertilizer, we are applying it in gardens and producing food. For now, we are using it on maize, and we are doing other experimental trials to apply it in the production of sorghum. You can go to 2 other slides, just run through them. Here, you can see that there obviously have been challenges in what we are doing. One of the main things is that we do not have a big population of researchers in the African context, especially in my country. So as a young researcher, you end up doing it yourself. You have nobody to mentor you. So you start an early stage without a mentor. My mentor, whom I worked with for about 2-3 years, left the country and went to work with the African Development Bank. And I was left as a young researcher to do it myself. Okay? So we did quite a lot, and then we find some challenges, attracting funds, but we try to circumvent that by also working with the other external funders. Next slide, please. Just talking about some of the ways in which we overcome this. But for myself, I've actually mentored quite a lot of people. I have young people who have got PhDs and others at masters. So to solve that problem of doing it yourself when you are a young researcher. And we are also trying to really find ways of getting money, both internally in the country, but also working with other collaborators. Next slide, please, which should be there, near the end. Just to show you some of the work we are doing. So we have dried urine. We have used it in experimental trials in the greenhouse, and we have also used it in the field. Under field conditions and also in the greenhouse, we find that it actually gives you almost the same yield as you can get if you use DAP, only that we find that for urine, whereas DAP is applied only at the planting season, we find that urine you need to apply it at least 3 times during the growing season, and you'll be able to obtain the same yield as you get if you use DAP. The last slide, please. Of course, I'll be able to share with this and even more information that you can find on my X handle or Twitter. But really to show you that for me, as far as I'm concerned, there's increasing research in agri-food systems in my country. I have increased research by working with people, not only from engineering to manufacture the fertilizer, but also to work with people who have a background in soil science and also in agronomy. And we are trying to make our country realize that we cannot depend on imported fertilizers. They need to support us to work together to obtain a local fertilizer that can be used to enhance soil productivity. Thank you. I'm sorry if I've taken long.
No, thank you, Charles. I suspected you would. So we will jump over to Marisia, who is then representing the very young students. Yeah.
Thank you. My name is Marisia Wilson from the University of Dar es Salaam Business School. I'm a lecturer there. So I'll be talking about the role of a researcher and how do I see myself as a young researcher and the responsibility that I have. Way back when I was doing my master's studies, I didn't think like, or I didn't connect that much the research and the solutions and the community. It was all about my degree. So I did my field work, I collected the data, analyzed it, wrote my dissertation, and I'm done. And I was happy for that. So coming to the PhD studies, visiting the fields work, talking, engaging more, I realized that people need solutions. And it's upon us researcher. Now I understand that it's my responsibility to sit, read, having sleepless nights, discuss on, doing my discussion in my heading, discussing with others, and come up with a solution. That should be the ultimate output from my research and not just the publication. For example, in one of the CEDA-funded projects at the University of Dar es Salaam, one of the sub-program came up with a solution on onion preservation that can increase the shelf life for the onions for farmers. And you can't imagine how farmers were happy for that. You can call small innovation that they got at their local area. And it attracted even the attention of the minister. It was launched by the ministry. And you can see the value of innovation. So I think my first responsibility is to support innovation from the research findings and to direct the thinking on that way. And another responsibility or duty that I think I have is on capacity building. And this is tricky because I've come to learn that I need to keep building my capacity so that I can build the others' capacity. I have a number of master students that I'm supervising. I have a dissertation that I'm reviewing, examining, but other project activities and research activities. Just yesterday I was sharing a comment before attending the theory of change course that AgriForce offers. We got one comment in one project that our theory of change was too theoretical, and I didn't know how to make it practical. So now I'm in a position that I know the difference after attending, after building my capacity on theory of change, and I'm in a position to build the others' capacity. So I think that is the other a responsibility that I think I have. And the other one is informing police. Before engaging more into research, I didn't think about I have the responsibility. I thought of policy makers are there. It's their role to think and come up with their solution. But now that we have discussed all over and all over again that we are the responsible person for policy now. It's not research anymore. It's research and policy. And that has kept expanding my scope as a researcher. And the last one is the knowledge transfer. I came to realize that I have a responsibility to transfer the knowledge to the local community. You sit, you talk to the women farmers there, and they're looking at you like we are waiting for the solution. So I think that now I have 4 big roles. Talking about the transferring of knowledge, for example, I can give just a simple example at our business school, what we have started as one of the outreach activities. We have started free business clinics that we are offering quarterly with my colleagues. We offer free business knowledge to smallholders, farmers, and entrepreneurs who cannot access business consultants. So we do it quarterly, we advertise, then they apply,
and we sit there in groups like clinics. So they come, they explain their problem, and we offer some of the advice and solutions. And it has been a good thing that we have initiated, and it feels like we are contributing to the solutions. So the scope is expanding as I'm growing in research, and it's becoming more interesting. Yeah.
Thank you. Now, Alan, as I understand, you are also part of the AgriFose program, and I guess you experience similar, like Marisia also. So I would like you to reflect a little bit on your career, but also to see, do you think this new role, is it as appreciated? I mean, do you have to balance between being a very good researcher or being, this policy interface? Is that a dilemma for you, or do you think it's okay?
Thank you. My name is Alan Mweke from Mount Kenya University. Thank you for that question. I just want to summarize that we know research is very important in development, and vice versa is also true. But as researchers, how do we share our findings? Borrowing from just our our project on AgriFose, on agrobiologicals, we asked researchers, how do you share your findings? And they told us, we share you in journals, followed by policy briefs. But you see how many people read journals, article journals here, who have influenced development, they are very few. Therefore, for us to be able to influence development as researchers, either young or old, we need to see how we can communicate our findings so that they reach everyone. Yes, everybody wants to publish in high-ranked journals, Nature and PLOS ONE and everyone else, but you see how is that going to influence development? So that is very important. So the other challenge you find as a young researcher is that you may not make a monumental contribution to development, and therefore you have to walk step by step. And along that journey, you need someone to hold your hand, so to be able to show you how to network, how to be able to give you guidance, to be able to mentor you, and also introduce you to possible donors. For example, can be able to finance your work, and even the network that you are able to share your findings. Because I may come up with a very good research, but I maybe have no access to the Minister for Agriculture in Kenya, or the director of the ministry. How will they find out about my research? Because they will not read the journal articles. Therefore, that is so mentoring is as part of is a very important contribution of research for the development for young researchers. Thank you.
Yeah, we are a little bit behind time. So we will cut down a little bit on questions. So I would like you now to kind of look into the future. So where will you be? Where will research in Africa be? Yeah, about 20 years. And how can you see, can we integrate? There are a lot of academic trained and graduated on the African continent now. So what is the role of these people as well? I know you don't have an answer, and I didn't ask you, but I know that you are capable of saying your words. In English, please.
Yeah, I wanted to start to say another thing, because as I told you how it was in the past with humanitarian support there, conflict, independence, power relations. But I think we all need to step up to that holistic and integrated view of what development is and the root causes for the different problems we can see. Because there are also backslash, in the politics. So I just have to share that with the present Swedish government, they are again saying, okay, we need to give all the money to humanitarian support. We cannot support salaries for scientists. And then, of course, we try to say, yeah, but if you have research on conflicts, on migration, on all those things, maybe we can prevent, So that's why I encourage everybody to try to stand on both the social science and the natural science and political science legs to keep moving. Because if we think we have made progress, and we will do that as a science community even more in the coming 20 years, we still need to communicate with everybody around, because as we said before, policymakers are changing. So it's not that everybody would be on board with a more advanced, equal collaboration in research as we think we have achieved. yeah, so we just also need to defend our positions. But then I hand over.
So thank you very much. Indeed, as you have rightly said, the numbers of highly educated researchers in Africa is increasing, thanks to a lot of foreign partners. By the way, I didn't say that I started from Sweden, SLU, under the support of the SIDA SAREC at that time, and I see also many people in this room from Makerere who studied under that arrangement. So our capacity has been built. I think that we need to continue to note that as populations in the world increase, the availability of resources and resource generation for us is diminishing. And especially for the renewable resources, for instance, the ability to manufacture phosphorus, or even the ability to get nitrogen-based fertilizers, whose production is very expensive. So since we are producing wastes, and as far as I know, for as long as humanity lives, we will go to the toilet, we will pee and poo. And the content of our pee and poo is actually coming from what we are eating. So we need to continue thinking hard on how to be able to return those nutrients that gave us food in the first place so that they go back. So the increasing, we need to continue doing work as we share it with our, policymakers, as the politicians and so on. As far as I know, most politicians are actually grappling with the problems of society. If they don't give food to people, if people are poor, they're hungry, they will not be elected back to their offices. For them to get back to their offices, they need problems of society to be solved. And we need to show that we can be part of that problem, because no politicians want to exit office, especially in Africa. They want to cling as far as they can. Of course, they are blocked by, the countries like Kenya and Tanzania, which have got these, constitutions which do not allow people to stay in power longer than two terms. But in other parts, it's not yet in place. But for you to stay in power, if the constitution allows you to continue in power for as long as you can, to keep that power, you need to solve problems of the society. So we need to show the politicians that we as researchers can be part of that problem. It's only that, by doing that, that they can allocate to us resources to do research, to solve community problems. And among the community problems is food. So if we solve through research, through value chains, through nutrients and so on, then we will be part of a solution to that problem of the politicians, making societies and communities to like them and vote them to stay in office for as long as they want. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Charles. Yeah, that was a good point. Marisia, please.
Thank you. Looking forward, I can see the great potential for research, and research is being increasingly recognized. Researchers are now welcomed in to advise on some researches, some decisions, and at times when things go wrong, people will be, where are the researchers? Where are the researchers, regardless of whether you were part of it or not. But I think the multi-stakeholder approach that we have been discussing is very important. At one time, we organized our dissemination workshop, and we invited people from different ministries, and it was about gender inclusion and agribusiness. And this lady approached me from the Ministry of Gender, Women, Youth, and Special Needs, something like that. She said, you need to come and do the same training and presentation at our ministry, because we are very challenged. Whatever we plan for gender issues or something, and comes the need for budget cut, it will be that budget line which will be cut. And we are not given any priority. So I think if they listen to this, what you have just presented, at least will be prioritized. So I can see we are in a good position if we just do what we are supposed to do, and focus on bringing changes and transformation to the society, but embrace the multi-stakeholders. We should not just do it ourselves. Otherwise, it will be the same community speaking to the same people, and it will not bring any transformation.
Thank you so much, Marisa. Very wise word. Alan, You have the last words now.
Yes, I want to summarize and say this. Research has to be dynamic. Dynamic means we have to address the emerging issues. The place of research and development is very clear, but what are we doing? We have to talk to the farmers, find out what do they really want. What do farmers want? What is their problem? There is climate change, but is that if their priority? Maybe something else. We talk to the farmers, find out exactly what they want, then we model our research to address those issues, and then we'll be able to solve the problems. Thank you.
So, thank you so much for giving your insight, and it's also very promising to hear that you are consulted, that you are requested to join policy dialogues, and the future is to then for a scientist to make sure that the politicians listen to you so that they can stay in power. Was that what you said? No, a little bit. Not forever, but for some time. Yeah, no, I understand. You know, to see the value of research, the value of innovation for the society. Yeah. So then people go to bed and they are not hungry. That's a way of winning an election, I think. Okay, yes, so thank you for this interesting conversation, and I think we should give them a big round of applause for sharing. So now we are at the end, and you will have some lunch finally, but we will now say goodbye to the online audience, but there is a special question for you, Charles, on online, so we will request to you to go and write to this person, even speak to him after this dialogue. Okay? Yes, please. Yeah, good. And then, so, but we will close, and you that are on Zoom, you will also receive a link for evaluation. We ask you kindly to fill it in because we evaluate everything we do and to be better next time. And then I also think that our Juna has some very important information as well before we go for lunch. Juna, can you please come? And you please to return to your seat. But Charles, you can go over to Jona's computer.
Yes, okay, so thank you so much for your participation, and we are now about to have some lunch. But after lunch, we will stop listening. So we have done that a lot today, I think, and start talking to each other even more. And I think that the discussions that I've heard out here have been really good, so it's going to be nice to continue them. So on your name tag, plate, you have a group number. It's quite small, but I hope you're all able to see it. And that is the group that you will belong to during the group discussions. And we have then facilitators who will be facilitating those discussions. And I'm going to ask the facilitators now to stand up and wave so that you know who your facilitator is. And then this is also new information for the facilitators. I believe that we can gather the groups at the restaurant after lunch. You can the facilitator will stand with a sign that says Group 1, and you will see that facilitator and follow him or her to the place where you will be seated. But let me start with the facilitator of Group 1. Cynthia over there. So everyone that has a Group 1 on their name tag will look out for Cynthia after lunch. Facilitator for Group number 2. Yeah, it could be. Do you have number 2? Yeah, Group 2. So that will be Charles then. So everyone that has Group number 2, look out for Charles. Group number 3. Not here, okay. Anyone that has Group number 3, you can come to me before leaving for lunch. Group number 4, that will be me. So anyone that has number 4, look out for me. 5 is Madeleine. Number 6, we'll meet after lunch. Number 7, Eileen over there. Anyone see that? Number 8, Heather, right there. Number 9, Anna, right here, and number 10, Ivar, over there. Yeah. So those of you that didn't see your facilitator now, you will find them after lunch. And you will need vouchers for the lunch, and you will get them outside from Susanne, who's standing there with the vouchers. So please make sure that you have a voucher and go for lunch and enjoy. And group discussions will start at, is it 1:30? Yeah, 1:30. Thank you.